Dr. Jyoti has not joined. Dr.
We are live on YouTube also, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Ma'am, this is Ranjit Sahu. Welcome you all to this webinar. Uttarakhand Society of Obs and Gynae in association with MTP Committee, FOXI is organizing a live webinar on MTP A Must Update. We at Waterbusa welcome you to all the delegates and esteemed faculties for this webinar. With this, I hand over the session to Meenu ma'am to take it forward.
Good evening, everyone. As Mr. Sahu has explained, we have gathered here to talk about everything about MTP, a must update. MTP, as we all know, is a very important topic in day-to-day life of every gynecologist. It has got many legal issues, and violation of the law may cause many penalties. Today, we have got stalwarts in this field, Dr. Jaideep Tank and Dr. Richa Sharma, who are going to tell us everything about MTP. I welcome all the seniors at this platform. I welcome Dr. Alka Kriplani. I take blessings from the FOXI office bearer, Dr. Shanta Kumari, President FOXI 2001-2022, Secretary General Dr. Madhuri Patil. I welcome Dr. Archana Verma. She will be joining us very soon. I welcome Dr. Richa Sharma, Chairperson MTP Committee FOXI 2022 to 2024. I welcome our Padam Shri and our Dr. Alka Kaplani, our chief guest. She's a very humble and very grounded person, and she has produced many endoscopic surgeons. She has given many endoscopic surgeons to India. So welcome, Dr. Kaplani. I welcome Dr. Jaideep Tank, President-elect 2024 to 2025. I welcome Dr. Archana Verma, Vice President FOXI. I welcome Dr. Richa Sharma, Chairperson MTP Committee. She's going to teach. Everyone was very panic about the panel discussion, and she has relieved their worries. So thank you very much, Dr. Richa. I welcome all the chairpersons. I welcome all the panel experts. I welcome Dr. Jaya, HOD, James Rishikesh. I welcome Dr. Luna. I welcome Dr. Sadhna Sharma. I welcome Dr. Ruchira, Dr. Sandhya, Dr. Rekha, Dr. Aarti. I welcome our panel experts, Dr. Geeta Jain and Dr. Anupama Putela. And I welcome all my guests of honor, Dr. Jyoti Sharma, a great mentor, and Dr. Suman Sethi, great advisor. I welcome our guest of honor, Dr. Narula from Kashipur. I welcome our next guest of honor, Dr. Savitri Singh, past President Haldwani. I welcome all the guests of honor here today on this platform. I welcome all the panelists, Dr. Sonu Rao, Dr. Ritu, Dr. Tulika, Dr. Ruchi, Dr. Arunima, and Dr. Sujata at this platform. Now I welcome Dr. Richa Sharma. Dr. Richa Sharma is the chairperson, MTP committee. Please display the CV of Dr. Richa. Mr. Sahu. Dr. Richa is the chairperson, MTP committee, FOXI 2022-24. She is a professor, UC MCGTB Hospital. She is very determined and very strong-willed person, which I have seen. She is a very hard-working girl. She has got many prizes and many awards in her credit, and she has done editing of the books, stepwise access to the hysteroscopy, intrauterine adhesions, Asherman syndrome, and overview and hysteroscopy. Over to Dr. Richa.
Thank you, Dr. Meenu Vaish. A very good evening, everybody. Thanks to Dr. Meenu Vaish and Dr. Archana for organizing this webinar on MTP updates. And thank you, Uttarakhand societies who have collaborated today. So my regards to Dr. Jaideep Tank, sir, who will be giving the first talk. And I'm very much thankful to both of you, Dr. Meenu and Dr. Archana, because you have organized this webinar. See, almost it is a 1 year since the MTP amendment, it has been notified and it has been implemented. But then let us not leave out even a single point regarding the MTP amendment or the act, because we all know it is a very small procedure. When we were postgraduates, we started with MTP, but then it has so many medical legal implications. So for the patient safety and also for our safety, doctor safety, we have to know this act by heart. So thanks to you. And I'm very much thankful to our president, Dr. Shanta Kumari Madam, Secretary General, Dr. Madhuri Patel, and Dr. Archana Verma, who is the FOXI VP in charge of MTP committee. I think Madam has not yet joined, and Dr. Kriplani Madam has also not yet joined. So I think we'll introduce the guest of honor first. And then once both the madam they join, then we can introduce them and we can have their blessings. So over to you, Dr. Meenu.
Welcome. Thank you, Dr. Richa. Welcome, Dr. Jyoti Sharma, our guest of honor. Dr. Jyoti Sharma, ma'am, is a great mentor. She is practicing as gynecologist in Dehradun since 1980. She has won IME Dehradun in Lifetime Achievement Award 2018. She's the past president FOXI Dehradun Society 2006 and 2008. Ma'am is a very encouraging person and great mentor, always helpful. Over to you, ma'am, Jyoti ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. And this session, I'm sure is going to be a very, very a fantastic session with a lot of knowledge, which is very necessary in today's time. And medical termination of pregnancy, though it may sound a very simple thing, but it has got so many implications, not only legal implications, but implications for doctors, for the health of the women, and so many changes have happened since 1971. So many changes have happened, and these changes have happened because there's been a continuous need for changing the norms for the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, and to prevent criminal abortions and the morbidity and the mortality of women who are pregnancy is something which is it is actually I wouldn't say totally a choice, but definitely a choice whether a woman wants to continue or not continue with a pregnancy, married, unmarried, these all things, because nowadays with the modern advent of all legalities, even unmarried women can carry on with their pregnancy. So this is such an important topic for the health of our nation. And we have stalwarts like Dr. Jaideep, who has been past Secretary General in FOXI for the MTP committee. And I'm sure I wouldn't be wrong if I call him as a mecca for the information he's going to give for the medical termination of pregnancy. And the latest, what is the in August 21, I think certain new amendments have been added for the safety of doctors as well as women. And I don't think I should come in between the knowledge of Dr. Tank and the August gathering. And welcome, Dr. Tank, and of course, congratulations for becoming a successful candidate as a president for 24-25. And I wouldn't really come in between the August gathering and Dr. Tank. Welcome, Dr. Tank.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind word. Thank you, ma'am, for the beautiful message you have given. Now I invite Dr. Archana Verma for bless us and give pulse of wisdom for this webinar.
Thank you, and very good evening to Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Yes.
you can
Yeah,
hear.
my good wishes to all of you as usual, and Dr. Archana Singh and Meenu. You people are doing wonderful work, and Aarti, what can I say? And for this, Richa is always doing very good programs. And today, as Dr. Madam said, we all are waiting to listening to our chief guest and guest of honors. And I think because I've just joined late, and I'm very sorry, or I was not feeling well also, so was not even in proper in the group also, so I may have missed certain important messages, but I think today's program is going to be a very successful and much needed program. When Dr. Jaideep Tank is there, so we are 100% sure that it is going to be a best academic program also, and all the speakers and all the faculty and all the chairpersons, and my good wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Archana Verma, ma'am, for joining. And thank you for always guiding me, supporting me, and encouraging me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, over to you, Dr. Meenu.
Now I will welcome and introduce our next guest of honor, Dr. Suman Sethi ma'am. Dr. Suman Sethi ma'am is a senior consultant practicing since last 50 years. She is a great advisor. She is the past president GOTS and the past president IMA Dehradun. She is a member of the governing body Uttarakhand, and she is the winner of the many awards, including President's Appreciation Award. Over to you, Suman ma'am. I think I'm not able to see Suman ma'am. We are not able to see Suman ma'am. And can I go ahead and introduce Dr. Narula? Dr. Narula is a very senior gynecologist of Kashipur. She is the past president of Foxy Kashipur. Over to you, Dr. Narula. Hello, ma'am. Are you there? Archana, please check Dr. Narula has joined or not.
No, Dr. Meenu, she is also not here.
She is not here. Our next guest of honor is Dr. Savitri Singh. She is from Haldwani. She is the retired director, Health and Family Welfare Department, Uttarakhand. She is the PMHS, presently working as a consultant gynae and obstetrics, Anant Maternal Care, Haldwani. She is the past president of Haldwani Obs and Gynae Society. Welcome,
Dr. Savitri could not join because she had some emergency. Her husband was not well and he is admitted in Max. So our best wishes are with her.
Best wishes and blessings are always with us. And now I introduce our secretary, very hardworking girl, Dr. Archana Singh. Dr. Archana Singh is a secretary, Uttarakhand Society of Obs and Gynae, and she is the consultant at Siddhi Vinayak Hospital. Over to you, Dr. Archana.
Thank you so much.
Carry on the further program.
So now moving on to our session 1, which contains 2 talks. Ma'am, I am audible. So the first talk is by none other, our star speaker, guest speaker, Dr.
You are mute, Dr. Archana.
Archana,
Dr. Archana, unmute yourself, please.
Archana, unmute yourself.
Archana, unmute.
Mr. Sahu, please take care.
Archana.
Archana, you have to unmute.
अर्चना तुम्हारे अपने उसमें बटन होगा एक अनम्यूट वाला. हाँ, अब हो गया.
Yes, now fine.
And Dr. Ruchira Nautiyal, she's professor and head at esteemed Jolly Grants. So I would like to ask Dr. Ruchira Nautiyal to please introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Jaideep Tank. Today I won't be taking the CVs very long because we have to discuss more and more.
More questionnaires coming on the way of Dr. Richa and Dr. Jaideep.
Archana, I think Ruchira is also not here. So I will read the CV. Just
Sure. Thank you so much, ma'am. That will be
just display here.
please display Dr. Jaideep's CV, please.
So good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Jaya Chaturvedi from AIIMS Rishikesh. And thank you everyone of Uttarakhand Society for including me in this webinar. And first of all, I am really happy to introduce our stalwart Dr. Jaideep Tank, who is President-elect also. So Sir is President-elect FOXI for 24-25 session, Secretary General Federation of OBS-GYN 2018 to 21. He is Project Lead FOXI USAID Projects 22-24, past President Mumbai Obstetric and Gynecological Society. He is Deputy Secretary Asia Oceania Federation of OBS-GYN, EOFOG, immediate past year International Federation of Obstetric Gynae, that is FIGO, for safe abortion. And he is awarded the FRCOG honorary causa in 2020 by the Royal College of Obstetrician and Gynecologists. Then his past year, actually I am unable to see, past year Publication and Newsletter Committee, EOFOG, and past year Reproductive Endocrinology Committee. And very long CV of Sir is there, and he had done wonders for the association. So now I invite Sir for the very, very important topic of MTP amendments and associated documentation and penalties.
Thank you.
For the talk.
Demand of everyone, Dr. Jaideep will talk about a little about the POSCOs Act also. So it's also very important.
So what I'll do is I'll actually try and incorporate a little bit of it, because if I speak about both, then it will become a very long presentation.
Yes.
So I'll just share my screen. Just give me a minute. Right. I hope my slide is seen now. Is my slide seen?
Visible, visible.
Sir, make it full screen, sir. It's not coming full screen.
Okay. 1 second. I'll just share it again. Showing. 1 second. I'll just share it again. Is that better?
Just screen sharing. Yes, sir, it is perfect, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Oh, thank you. Right. So let me first begin by thanking the President and Secretary of the Uttarakhand Obstetrics and Gynecological Societies, Dr. Meenu Vaish, and the Secretary, Dr. Archana, for inviting me here. It is such a pleasure to be here for this webinar. When I was standing for the election, everyone in Uttarakhand was so helpful, so supportive. And as this quote from William Shakespeare says, I can have no other answer but thanks and thanks and ever thanks. It's only possible that I could get elected because of the wonderful support, encouragement, and guidance of everybody here. And I'm seeing so many of my friends over here, so many whom I met when I visited Dehradun. I think Aarti will remember. She was the president of the society at that time, and she was kind enough to organize, along with Radhika, a seminar for me. And I was so happy being there that immediately I came to Dehradun in November, and then in January I came back with my family and took a vacation again in Landor near Mussoorie. So really pleasant memories. I think Dr. Jaya Madam was kind enough to come, and I had promised her that I will visit Rishikesh and her college And Madam, I still intend to do that as soon as possible.
Yes,
And
definitely in your next tenure, so many
yes,
visits.
and I must thank ma'am and Dr. Ruchira for chairing this session. And I'm indeed delighted to be here. I must acknowledge the current office bearers of Foxy, Shanta, Dr. Madhuri Patel, Dr. Archana Verma ma'am, whom we've just heard, an absolute bundle of enthusiasm and energy. And of course, Richa is doing wonderful work as chairperson of the MTP committee. And I always tell her this is one committee which is very close to my heart because I began my career in Foxy as chairperson of the MTP committee, a post which Richa now holds. So Richa, congratulations on the fantastic work that you are doing, and keep it up. It is always such a pleasure to see and meet Dr. Alka Kriplani. I think Madam may join a little later. And the very eminent guests of honor, Dr. Jyoti Sharma, Dr. Suman, Dr. Narula ma'am, and Dr. Singh. I must acknowledge all the chairpersons who are participating. Dr. Luna Pant, again, someone I've known for a very long time. Dr. Sandhya Sharma and Dr. Rekha Srivastav, and Aarti will be chairing the next panel. And in fact, I must say that I am looking at my talk as a talk which will set the stage for the panel discussion. This talk will be setting a bit of a background, and then the nuances or the fleshing out of all the documentation and penalties will be addressed in the panel. So Richa, you will have to work much harder than I have for this particular webinar. And I must acknowledge the panel experts, Dr. Geeta Jain, Dr. Anupama is here. I can see her. Hi, Anupama. Again, someone who's very helpful and very kind. And all the panelists, Dr. Sonu, Dr. Ritu, Dr. Tulika, Dr. Gunjan, Dr. Madhu, Dr. Ruchi, Dr. Arunima, and Dr. Sanjay. As I said, I am going to set a bit of a background here. I know Dr. Meenu Vaish told me to cover a little bit of the POCSO Act, but I will be covering it in a little contextual fashion rather than actually covering the POCSO Act, because I think that part will actually be better served by the panel rather than a very, very long presentation. And we are now, of course, all used to physical presentations now, and we don't want to try the patience of the people who are attending this webinar. So I'm going to speak on the MTP amendment primarily. There is a focus on documents and penalties. But again, I'm going to more or less set the stage for the panel discussion which is going to follow. So let me first begin by again reiterating a story. And I have actually spoken about this several times. In fact, a lot of times when I speak about the MTP Act, I do speak about this family. And the reason I do that is it brings home the importance of the MTP Act. It brings home the importance of safe and legal abortion provided in a timely fashion. And it brings home the importance of the amendments of the MTP Act. This is in fact a story of a 12-year-old girl in a village somewhere in our country. The parents of this girl are daily wage earners. They go to the fields every day to make a living. And in good faith, they leave this 12-year-old girl with someone they thought is a trusted relative, a maternal uncle. Unfortunately, this maternal uncle turns out to be the worst kind of predator, a pedophile. He repeatedly rapes this 12-year-old girl until inevitably she gets pregnant. Not having had the benefit of menstrual hygiene education, sex education, or whatever you may want to call it, she doesn't realize that she's pregnant. It's only a few months down the line that her mother suddenly thinks that my daughter has not had periods since quite a few months. and takes her daughter to the primary health center locally, only to be told at that time that this 12-year-old girl is 24 weeks into her pregnancy. This was before the amendment of the MTP Act. And because it was before the amendment at that time, they were told that, sorry, you're beyond 20 weeks of pregnancy and we can't do your abortion. And then starts this whole rounds of appropriate authorities, medical boards, courts, lawyers, judges. And I would just like you to imagine this 12-year-old girl and her family going from authority to authority, lawyer to lawyer, medical board to medical board, reliving the trauma that she's already undergone. She finally reaches the Supreme Court. And I was asked to give an opinion at that time on whether the MTP should be allowed or not. I had, of course, said it should be, but the Supreme Court said that she's now 32 weeks into her pregnancy. She has no seeming immediate danger to life. The fetus is healthy, and so they denied the permission for the abortion. This 12-year-old girl then had to go to term and deliver a baby by cesarean section. This is not an isolated incident by a long shot. This 12-year-old girl and her family is whom I would like you to keep in mind when we talk about the impact of the MTP Act and the impact of the amendments to the MTP Act that have recently taken place. It is quite unfortunate that as obstetricians and gynecologists, although we are subject to the maximum number of regulations of any medical specialty, I think we actually have more acts and laws regulating us even more than cardiac transplant surgeons and renal transplant surgeons. It obviously means that the government thinks that delivering patients and looking after women's health is more difficult than doing cardiac and renal transplants. But despite the fact that we have so many laws and regulations which govern us, we as obstetricians and gynecologists, unfortunately, regard law, lawyers, judges, and courts with a lot of cynicism and skepticism. I'm not asking you for a show of hands, but just think in your heart. How many of you have read, for example, the MTP Act, the POXO Act, the ART bill, or something as mundane as the Biomedical Waste Act? Because these are all acts which govern us. Whenever we talk about an act or a law, we behave like Hermione, who in one of my favorite book series written by J.K. Rowling, responded to Scrimgeour when he asked her, "Are you planning to follow a career in magical law?" And she said, "No, I'm not. I'm actually hoping to do some good in the world." Unfortunately, this is the kind of cynicism and skepticism that we regard law with. And I really think that we should pay more attention to all the laws which govern us. The need for the MTP Act came essentially because of these sections of the Indian Penal Code, which criminalized abortion. And they criminalized not only those who provided the abortions, that is service providers and doctors, but they also criminalized the women who sought the abortion. So supply and demand, both were criminalized by the Indian Penal Code. because of which, obviously, abortion went underground. And when abortion went underground, the morbidity and mortality from abortion rose. In 1964, the government said that the morbidity and mortality from abortions is very high, and we need to look at a way of bringing this down. So the original thought of the MTP Act was never about women's rights or empowering women. It was essentially about bringing down morbidity and mortality. And you can see this thread running right through the MTP Act and the amendments to the Act. It's not a rights-based act. Even now, although women in our country access abortion quite freely, they do so because of certain indications that have been built into the Act. Even today, the MTP Act is physician-centric. That means you as the physician need to give an indication saying that this woman should have an abortion with this indication, and then she can undergo the abortion. In 1964, the Shantilal Shah Committee was set up. Shantilal Shah was a retired bureaucrat from Mumbai, and they worked for 2 years, produced a Shantilal Shah Committee report in 66. The MTP bill presented in 69 finally passed as the MTP Act in 71, and then enforced nationwide in 72 and then later 1980 in some places. You can see that page over there on the slide. That is actually a page from the original Shantilal Shah Committee report of 1966. I got it from the Library of Parliament when I had gone to make a presentation to some parliamentarians. And you can see circled in red over there, even at that time, Foxy was represented in the Shantilal Shah Committee. We all know Professor V.N. Shirodkar for Shirodkar Stitch, Shirodkar Sling, etc. But it is my personal belief that by representing Foxy very ably on the Shantilal Shah Committee and for being a voice for women on this committee, he perhaps impacted more women than he did with all his gynecological surgeries. So the MTP Act is, of course, an act of parliament. The rules are framed by the central government and must be ratified by each house of parliament. The regulations are framed by state governments and only relate to opinions, reporting and maintaining secrecy. And then there are, of course, SOPs. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because the way we provide abortions in this country does not depend only on the Act. We rely on the Act, we rely on the rules, regulations, and the SOPs, which are formed by the central government to provide abortion. And there are occasions, in fact, when sometimes the rules have a bigger impact on our practice compared to the Act itself. And a great example of this is when medical abortion was introduced. Medical abortion was introduced in this country via the rules which were amended in 2001 and 2002. And currently, the largest number of abortions in this country are provided through medical abortions. So it was this one simple clause in the rules of 2002 which enables us to use mifepristone and misoprostol in this country. Of course, sometimes well-meaning laws can have unnecessary conflict and conflation. And an example of this, of course, are the PCPNDT Act and the POXO Act. There is, in fact, if you really think about it, no conflict between the MTP Act and the PCPNDT Act, because sex selection is an issue of sex determination and not abortion. The PCPNDT Act, in fact, uses the word MTP/abortion only once in the entire PCPNDT Act. They are two completely separate acts with two completely different purposes, and they should actually not have anything to do with each other. The problem is the way the PCPNDT Act is written and the way targets are set for appropriate authorities. Appropriate authorities sometimes take the view that let's reduce abortions and therefore we'll have less sex-selected abortions and therefore we will have a normal gender ratio. And this is absolutely fallacious thinking. And the reason that it's fallacious is that the problem is not the abortion. The problem is the determination of gender, which is why the PCPNDT Act was enforced. And in fact, every time we as advocates for women's health meet anybody in the policy sphere, we have to keep on re-emphasizing this. And this is something which I have a lot of discussions about with my radiology colleagues. They all seem to say, कि यार abortion नहीं होता तो क्या फिर कोई problem ही नहीं. And I always tell them, yes, but if there were no sex determination, then there would not be sex-selected abortions. And therefore, the focus on abortions to normalize the gender ratio, in my view, is a very fallacious approach. You will remember that when I was Secretary General, Foxy filed a petition in the Supreme Court to rationalize the PCPNDT Act. And we asked that 2 sections of the PCPNDT Act be modified. At that time, the Supreme Court judges said that there is no need to modify this because there are already adequate safeguards built into the PCPNDT Act. For example, they quoted one section of the PCPNDT Act which said that your machine cannot be sealed until an advice from the legal cell of your district PCPNDT committee has been taken. Unfortunately, not many people have again read the judgment, but I can tell you from anecdotal experience of speaking to so many people all over, it does seem that the PCPNDT authorities have taken a little more rational approach after the Supreme Court judgment has come out. The other issue, of course, is the POXO Act. The problem with the POXO Act, like so many other laws, is that it lacks nuance. And I'm going to go a little bit into the POXO Act over here. The way the POXO Act is drafted, it criminalizes all sexual activity, not only the act of penetration, it criminalizes all sexual activity below the age of 18 years. So instead of taking a nuanced approach, the government of that time who made the POXO Act and promulgated the POXO Act, you can see 2012, decided that adolescents are too irresponsible and immature to handle their own sexuality. They are not mature enough. They are silly. They give in to their hormones. And so let's ban all sexuality below the age of 18. You can understand what a ham-handed type of an approach it is. It's like typical Mai Baap Sarkar kind of an approach where the government decides, I know what is best and you have to do what I think is best for you. They did not give adolescents the benefit of, if for want of a better word, doubt, to say that yes, you can handle your own sexuality. And this has created a lot of conflict and conflation because not only does the POXO Act criminalize all sexual activity below the age of 18, it also has an aid and abet clause which says that if you are aware of anybody who has undergone sexual activity below the age of 18, you are bound to report it. And this impacts abortion. It impacts abortion in a very poor way. Because prior to the POXO Act, in fact, the MTP Act was very friendly to the adolescents. Prior to the POXO Act, if there was someone below the age of 18 who needed an abortion, she could simply come with a guardian. And mind you, see, this is the importance of word. The MTP Act said guardian and not legal guardian. For the purposes of the MTP Act, the guardian could be anybody. It could be her favorite aunt, uncle, sister, elder brother, anybody below the age of 18, even including her boyfriend, who could give the consent, and then you could have done the abortion. But once POCSO Act came and made all sexual activity below the age of 18 criminal, you could obviously no longer do that. Now what you have to do is report to the appropriate authority as soon as you know somebody below the age of 18 has either had sexual activity or in this instance is pregnant. But remember that this report is made in a very simple way. On your letterhead, you simply inform the appropriate authority. So for example, you get a 16-year or a 17-year-old girl who's pregnant and needs an abortion. Write on your letterhead, Miss So-and-so had come to see me, and I find that she, Miss So-and-so, aged about so-and-so, has come to see me, and I find that she's so many weeks pregnant. Take 2 copies, get it stamped, take a received stamp on it, and come back to your clinic. In fact, once you have informed, your duty under the POCSO Act is over. The girl then moves from the POCSO Act to the MTP Act, and you do not have to wait for any legal proceedings before you provide the abortion, unless and until the appropriate authority in writing has told you that you cannot do the abortion. After you have informed, you can now go ahead and perform that abortion. And this obviously, as I said, has created a lot of conflict and conflation because different authorities behave differently with adolescents who go to them. I've always said in our country, the process is the punishment. It's not the punishment alone which is the problem. And this conflict and conflation is exacerbated by the fact that on the one hand, you have this very scary looking POCSO document on the government's website, and on the same government's website, you have this very wonderful RKSK document. The POCSO Act says all criminal activity below 18 is criminal. The RKSK document, on the other hand, says, but of course, adolescents have sex. Adolescent sexuality needs to be addressed and they should have access to contraception. I believe the amendments have got some resolution, although not fully, on this conflict and conflation. This is a screenshot of my calendar. You can see it's from 6th October 2008. And you can see the reason I'm sharing this screenshot is because of what happened on that day. You will see this MTP amendments meeting, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Delhi. This was one of the first official meetings I had attended for the amendments. But you can see the date, 2008. That's how long it has taken for the amendments to come through. The amendments have come just recently. That's the amount of time that we have spent advocating for the amendments. There has obviously been a fair amount of advocacy. These are some articles which I have written. These are editorials in Hindustan Times, Mumbai Mirror, The Hindu. That's another op-ed I had wrote for The Hindu. I've actually published in some law journals, and I have been interviewed by some law journals on this issue. This, for example, is an interview which appeared in the Jindal Global Law School Journal, where I was interviewed for my thoughts on the conflation between MTP and PCP-NDT Act. I have made presentations to parliamentarians who even at that time had agreed that the MTP Act needs to be amended. And what we had told them was that the question of abortion should not be an issue in the political arena. When a woman has to make this kind of decision, she should be able to see her doctor, not her lawyer, which is what was happening at that time. We even visited the Prime Minister's office. We did not meet the Prime Minister, but we met the person who was in charge of health at the PMO. You can see that CN Sir, Jaideep and me. This was when Jaideep Malhotra was the president. And we conveyed to them that these are all the changes which were urgently needed. And we were actually pleasantly surprised that almost all these changes were accepted by the government, except perhaps the first one, where we asked that for abortion up to 12 weeks, it should be a woman's right. The government still didn't give that, but they all met almost all the other requests. And we were therefore delighted when the act finally came to the Lok Sabha. In fact, when the act was being discussed in the Rajya Sabha, I'm not sure you can hear this, but This is Dr. Harshvardhan, who was the health minister of India at that time. And when he was talking about the MTP Act, I believe for the first time ever, Foxy was mentioned in Parliament as a leading stakeholder on the issue who was consulted before the Act was amended. So these are the amendments to the MTP Act, and I've already spoken for around 15 minutes, I think. So Dr. Meenu, I'll finish in another 5 minutes. I'll quickly take you through the amendments. And these are, of course, the amendments and the rules and the notification. So what do the amendments say? The amendments first say that we have to form a medical board. And then one underrated change in the MTP Act is that for the first time, the Act talks about the methods of providing an abortion. In all this time, the Act had never spoken that an MTP can be performed by medical or surgical methods. This has now been brought into the Act. For the reference of everyone who's watching this, the ones in orange are the changes which took place in 2002, 2001, 2002. The ones in red are the changes which have taken place recently. A very important change that has come about, and something which we had been asking for a very long time, is that now up to 20 weeks of gestation, you need the signature of only one provider. Previously, it used to be one provider up to 12 weeks and two providers between 12 and 20 weeks. This has now changed from one provider up to 20 weeks and two providers between 20 and 24 weeks. Another very important change, it seems to be a small change, but it's actually a very important change, is the word married woman in the clause which talks about failure of contraception. We know that almost 90% and above of abortions in our country are provided through this clause which says failure of contraception. And see, this is the wisdom of the lawmakers and policy writers. They never said that we have to ask which contraception, what contraception, why contraception. The couple could have been thinking about contraception at the time, and that is also fine. But this clause was limited by the fact that it talked about failure of contraception for married women. This word married has been now dropped, and it says any woman or her partner. Now, again, this may seem like a small cosmetic change, but it's actually a very important change, because it's an acknowledgement from the government that even unmarried girls have sex, even unmarried girls have unwanted pregnancies, and even unmarried girls need safe abortion. Within the Act itself, the limit of gestation for extending up to 24 weeks for the indication of rape has been there. And this, again, really, what a remarkable change this is. The rules came in and said that women who fall under all these indications can now undergo abortion right up to 24 weeks of gestation. And look at the list of indications, starting from survivors of sexual assault, rape, incest, minors, change of marital status, right down to women with pregnancy and humanitarians, disaster. I mean, really think about it. If you look at the indications of the MTP Act and you look at these indications, realize that the only indication where an extension has not been given for 20 to 24 weeks, in fact, is failure of contraception. For all other indications and a broader list of indications, abortion for all intents and purposes is now legal in India right up to 24 weeks of gestation. And this is really a very, very remarkable change. There is no fresh training or certification required for degree holders in ONG, no fresh registration, reapplication, certification, or inspection of premises if the premises is already registered up to 20 weeks. This is important because once the amendments came in, I had some people calling me up saying that our local authorities are asking for a new application for 20 to 24 weeks. I said, absolutely not. It's not required. We send them a note from Foxy and the authorities agreed with it. Medical board formation is another thing which has come. And as you will see here, the formation of medical board is actually relatively simple. But this is a classic instance of where implementation has not kept up with policy, because as you will see, 2DD says, notified in the official gazette by state government or union territory. Unfortunately, there's hardly a state in our country where a medical board has been formed. Now, let me reiterate two important things here. One, medical boards come into the picture only after 24 weeks of gestation. Before 24 weeks, there is absolutely no need to go to medical board, right? Two, because of the amendments, that long drawn out process of first going to court, the court giving a direction to make a medical board, then medical board sending an opinion back to the court, and finally the judge deciding whether abortion should be allowed or not has completely gone away. You now up to 24 weeks perform the abortion. After 24 weeks, no need to go to court, go to the medical board. And the medical board is there for one indication only, and that is essentially for fetal malformations or abnormalities which compromise the quality of life or are lethal. Unfortunately, as I said, in a lot of states, boards have not been formed. In fact, a few months back, I got this call from a couple in Delhi saying we are 28 weeks, fetus has complex congenital anomaly, complex congenital cardiac anomaly, detected late because of its nature, and we want an abortion. So I said, that's fine. So many medical colleges in Delhi, go, they will have a board and they'll give you the permission. They said, no, sir, we went to 2-3 places, but there's no board. So nobody's giving us permission for the abortion. So then I helped them to go to Delhi High Court. I helped them with their affidavit and so on and so forth. They went to the High Court. And one key and very important thing, in case you also have a patient, is that when you go to High Court, don't ask for permission for the abortion. Direct the High Court to set up a medical board, because that will be helpful not only for this patient, but also for all the patients who come after this patient. Obviously, the High Court on the same day, in the same hearing, first hearing, directed a medical board to be formed. Promptly, she was given permission and she underwent a safe abortion. And just see, I mean, the act is so good for these women who previously had to go from pillar to post. It says that the medical board has to give an opinion within 3 days of receiving the request, and it has to provide the abortion. If the medical board thinks that yes, the abortion can be provided, they have to provide it within 5 days. So you remember that case I told you, 24 weeks to 32 weeks and so on, no more. If there is a medical board, everything can be done in 5 days. There are, of course, some other amendments which make or enable these amendments, and one which has raised a lot of consternation is the one which penalizes breaking confidentiality, because they have introduced penal provisions in this. But remember, I told you that opinions regulating and maintaining secrecy falls under regulations. We have not yet received the new model regulations. We will have to wait for that. For this. Now, this is a very interesting legal discussion, and I'm sure the panel will go talk about it. Some training requirements have changed to accommodate a new cadre. Some opinions have changed, and these are 2 new forms which should be filled. Form D is to be filled when you're terminating a pregnancy. This is to be filled by the medical board when they give an opinion on whether a pregnancy beyond 24 weeks can be terminated. And Form E, we have to fill when we terminate a pregnancy between 20 and 24 weeks. We are, of course, waiting for the SOPs. They are equally important. And this is just to illustrate the importance of SOPs. I was asked by the government of Maharashtra, you can see my name there, to draft the SOPs for abortions beyond what was 20 weeks at that time. But we now will have SOPs for abortions right through the trimester, because that is what the new amendment says. In fact, I was quite honored and privileged that after the amendments came, I was asked to write an op-ed for the Government of India on the amendments. I wrote an op-ed and submitted them, but I never thought that they will release it in such a big way. They have sent it to all the embassies and high commissions all over the world. So in a lot of embassy and high commission websites, you can go and read the op-ed which I had written. But of course, the path from policy to implementation is never straight. It's in fact quite tortuous, as this arrow illustrates. But we have to navigate it, and we have to navigate it because, in fact, all abortion-related deaths are preventable. And when abortion is performed by qualified people using correct techniques and sanitary conditions, it is one of the safest medical procedures. You remember when we all started our training in obstetrics and gynecology, typically one of the first procedures that is given to a freshly graduated MBBS student with no surgical experience, either a gynec DNC or an MTP. This is such a simple procedure. I'm not saying we should demedicalize it, of course not. But for need or for want of such a simple procedure, women are still dying. And if that's not tragic, I don't know what is. After all, history is her story too. Thank you very much.
Taliya, Dr. Jaideep. You're so humble, so illustrious. You know, क्या क्या डॉक्टर साहब आपने कर रखा है, कहाँ गवर्नमेंट के अंदर घुस के आपने चीजें करी हुई हैं. You're so impressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before the chairpersons would say something, मुझे एक question है, if you people allow me. Can I ask?
Yes, Anupma. Yes, continue.
सर, ये जो नए प्रोविजंस आए हैं अभी इसी कॉन्फ्रेंस के चलते मैंने थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में पढ़ा, and I was wondering, one of the places it was mentioned that the medical abortions and early abortions can be done by nurses and Ayush also. Is that true?
No, absolutely.
It is not true.
No.
Right.
There was a proposal for this 6 or 7 years back.
Yeah.
But
CSC वाला एक था, उसमें लिखा था.
No, not at all. So the expansion of CADA that has taken place is that MBBS doctors, okay, who undergo a certain training are now allowed to perform this, and the requirements of that training have been reduced. Previously, even if they wanted to give only medical abortion, they had to undergo the full training, which was, you know, those 25 cases with 10 to see, 10 to assist, and 5 to do independently. This requirement has been reduced, but only for MBBS doctors, not for any other pathology.
It's only MBBS, not BMS, VHMS, nothing.
No, not at all.
Okay. And this medical abortion thing, is it allowed till 9 weeks or till 7 weeks? Some places it is written 7, and actually it is 9 weeks. Which
so 9 weeks allowed. It's allowed right up to 9 weeks now. This is via a permission which has been received from drug controller. But you know, Anupama, there's a very funny thing here. When the original permission came from drug controller, it came for those separate packaging of mifepristone and misoprostol. When this was extended from 7 weeks to 9 weeks, the permission that has come for a combi pack. So technically, although it's allowed till 9 weeks, if you are doing between 7 and 9 weeks, you have to use a combi pack. Your prescription has to say combi pack because the permission is for a combi pack. You can't use that Mifi and Miso, which comes as separate packaging. So that's a bit of a nuance. And now a bit of a point where I have a little different point of view from some others, which is about the use of Mifi and Miso beyond 9 weeks. Some of us may feel that the drug controller has allowed its use only up to 9 weeks. So what about second trimester? And this is in fact something which bears thinking about, because I don't think I know anybody in this country now who uses any other method for second trimester besides mifepristone and misoprostol.
True.
Now we say that although the drug controller has given up to 9 weeks, although the new amendments say 9 weeks quite specifically, We continue to use MIFI and MISO because the SOPs of the government of India say that this is the safest way to provide abortion. Do they explicitly say that this is legal in the second trimester? No, they don't. They don't. But the SOPs do explicitly say, at least the SOPs of 2014 explicitly say that this is the safest way of providing abortion. And even now, when we provide second trimester with MIFI MISO, we are to a certain extent following precedents, but using MIFI MISO off-label. So what does this mean in terms of legality? When you use MIFI MISO in the second trimester, are you doing something illegal? It has never been tested in court, in my view. Nobody has been taken to court for using mifepristone and misoprostol instead of, say, Empredil or dilatation and evacuation. The WHO guidelines quite clearly say that MIFI MISO is the best way. Our SOPs say, and that is the reason we continue this thing. Anupama asked me about 9 weeks, and that's why I thought I'll just bring this into the conversation. But I'm sure you will talk a little more about it in the panel.
Sir, is there any possibility of in future going to the court? I'm Dr. Madhu from Haldwani,
Yes,
sir.
yes, madam. Yes, yes.
Sir, is there any possibility of going to court because legally it is not approved for second trimester, these drugs?
So again, when you say legally it is not approved, you have to contextualize it. It is also legally, it is not that legally it is not approved, but it is also that legally it is not disapproved. Okay,
by
so
the
you
government,
have to,
WHO has.
Then, sir, we should again work for some amendments in the.
no, madam. Actually, this is so when we were drafting the amendments, I had made a point of this. I had specifically said about this. They said that is the duty of the drug controller to give the permission. In fact, I have been working on this for almost 8 years now. We have produced 6 different dossiers from 6 different pharmaceutical companies and sent them to the drug controller. So the dossier gives evidence, guidelines, the need, and so on and so forth. And this is already with the drug controller. So at some point in time, we will get the approval. But again, let me be very sort of upfront about this. Do I use MIFI MISO for second trimester? Absolutely, I do. Yes, do I write on paper that I'm using mifepristone and misoprostol? I do it because I think that there is enough precedence, there is enough guidelines, there's enough background to support me in case something goes wrong. But is it explicitly said that yes, this is like up to 9 weeks, there's a drug controller order? Is there a similar order for second trimester? No, there's not. But does anybody in this webinar use anything else for second trimester? I would believe the answer is no.
So sir, this is Dr. Sonu from Haridwar.
Yes, I had Dr. Sonu.
Hi, sir. So is it like that we understand by 9 weeks medical abortion means that you can send the patient home, and after that, if you're using a medical, means of abortion, then you have to admit the patient?
No. After that, oh, right. So you're saying for second trimester, right?
Yeah.
No, she's saying after 9 weeks.
Even after 9 weeks, even if we are using 12, 13 weeks also, then also I think nobody sends the patient home with the medical means. We normally keep, even if you're certain angle, then we,
So for that you have to refer to the SOPs, right? A lot of the SOPs say that after giving misoprostol, it is advisable to admit the patient till the abortion is complete for later abortions. Up to 9 weeks, of course, we don't admit. So my personal, so I will tell you what I do in practice, because I think there are a lot of SOPs sometimes contradicting each other. But I do this based on experience and readings, the WHO, RCOG, etc. SOPs. Up to 9 weeks, mifepristone and misoprostol like normal. Between 9 and 13 weeks, I don't do only medical abortions. I prime with mifepristone and misoprostol and then complete the abortion surgically. Beyond 13 weeks, I use mifepristone and misoprostol. I give mifepristone. I wait for 48 hours. Then I admit the patient in the night. And in the night at around 12 or so, I don't go. My assistant puts in misoprostol for that patient. And the reason I do it at around 12 or 1 is that they likely abort within 6 to 8 hours. So if I put it at 9 in the night, I will have to go at 4 o'clock in the morning to see if the abortion is complete or not. Why should I wake up? Let my assistant wake up. They can put it at 12 o'clock. And then by the time I go at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, usually she's in good labor and she'll abort within a couple of hours. So personally, that's how I approach the whole thing.
Yes,
so in fact, there are, sort of
yes.
of the whole.
Dr. Sonu, I think she wanted to know medical method of abortion, like there is a OPD basis wherein we give the tablet and patient go home. So if we are using a term MMA, medical method of abortion, first trimester, we are doing on the OPD basis. After 9 weeks, if you are using the tablets, you have to admit the patient. That is the thing I think she wanted to know.
Yeah, actually,
And
that
then-
is what I was saying.
Yeah.
That
This I
medical
think we
abortion,
wanted
when
to know.
you use the term medical abortion, it is like,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah,
just.
but you,
Yeah.
Dr. Sonu, you admit the
MMA in
patient.
first trimester means OPD basis, but if you are using beyond 9 weeks, then you have to admit. That is one thing. And then regarding second trimester, we were discussing, like although the government of India, they have not approved MIFI and MISO in second trimester, but if you read the document, they have given the reference of WHO. In one
That's-
line, they have written it is not approved by government of India, but then they have given the reference of WHO, and WHO says MIFI and MISO, it is very safe and very effective.
In fact, WHO
Indirectly,
has
yeah. So
given the
indirectly, they have
dosages.
approved MIFI and MISO. This is what I feel.
That is exactly the point.
WHO has given the dosages also.
Yeah, we will discuss in panel. All these
Yeah,
things we will discuss in panel.
Yeah.
All the
डॉक्टर
doses
जयदीप
and
एक
everything.
क्वेश्चन है जो इससे रिलेटेड है. सबसे पहले बिल आया, फिर एक्ट आया, फिर उसके बाद में रूल्स आए. The rules have also been implemented. Now, do we have the regulations, or the
Not yet.
states are going to form it? And have the states actually formed the regulations as yet, or medical boards? How the other day I was reading that Dr. Sumita Ghosh's webinar when the rules were yet to come, and she was saying that 172 medical boards have been formed.
Yeah.
But I am not aware of those medical boards.
So Anupama, the thing is that, so you've actually asked two questions. One is about the regulations and one about the medical boards, and they are two separate questions.
जी,
The model regulations have not been formed. I haven't really heard about any move to form them, to be perfectly honest. Okay. But we are trying to talk to them and tell them to form them as soon as possible, particularly because of that section which talks about penal provisions for breaking confidentiality.
confidentiality.
Medical boards, which Dr. Ghosh said have been formed, have actually been formed under the old direction of the Supreme Court and the various high courts. And these medical boards were formed under the old MTP Act for giving permission for abortion, right, under direction from the High Court. So previously the procedure was you went to High Court. The High Court then directed the case to a medical board. And these medical boards are the boards which Dr. Ghosh was talking about. And there are indeed 130 odd for them. In fact, I was part of the committee which drafted the SOPs for those medical boards, particularly for the government of Maharashtra and for the rest of the country. But the new boards under the new amendments, which are not working under the direction of the High Court, but can be approached directly by the provider or the patient for abortions for fetal malformations and anomalies beyond 24 weeks, have not been formed yet. The only instance was that case I showed you from Delhi, where the abortion and the board was formed in AIIMS, New Delhi. And in fact, I must thank Mirja and everyone else from AIIMS who worked very proactively for that. And there was another medical board which was formed somewhere in Karnataka. But those medical boards were not permanent boards. They were formed for that particular case, which is a problem. In fact, the state should actually proactively, Aarti, if I remember right, when I'd come to Dehradun, I had given a similar presentation. And at that time also I had said that, the society should take it upon itself to approach the government and request them to get the board formed. The idea of the boards was actually that wherever there's a medical college, there should be a board to make things more accessible. There should not be only one state board. And there was a lot of discussion on the board. They wanted pediatric cardiologists and nephrologists and all. I said, ऐसे करेंगे तो पूरी देश में 2 बोर्ड होंगे, इतने स्टफ स्पेशलिस्ट इधर होते हैं, and that's why the formation of the board is now quite simple. You know, so we should now, I think to a certain extent, the onus is on us also for the formation of the board. But as you know, in Maharashtra, there is so much happening with the government that this is like a real low priority thing. And somehow the government seems to be very proactive for the ERT bill. You know, the boards are getting formed and this and that and the other, but ye nahi hua hai abhi tak.
And this is a more commonly done procedure and causes more of
अगर ये कभी हमारे स्टेट पे बात आएगी, probably डॉक्टर जया चतुर्वेदी मैम से बात सबसे पहले होगी, तो make sure कि हम सिर्फ 3 लोगों को include करें, बहुत उसको complicated ना बनाएं, just a radiologist, a pediatrician and a gynecologist and go ahead. And the less complicated it is, the better it is that it will be formed.
Definitely, we'll do that.
So Dr. Jaydeep, I think in a state, individual state have to pursue, because I tell you the scenario of Delhi, we have constituted a board according to the new law, sir. The 8 medical colleges and other, I think 3-4 places private, we have constituted medical board, but it is not yet notified.
According
to the new one, we have our medical college also is having one board with one pediatrician, radiologist and gynecologist and thing, but not yet notified. So we are still with the back rules only. We have to file a, patient has to file a petition and things like that and then go.
Notify kaun karega?
Dr. Jaydeep.
I think Dr. Luna Pant madam wants to say.
Yes, I wanted to say, Dr. Jaydeep, you are doing wonderful work on this, I must say, but I just wanted to know, like, there's this thing about the board is really not clear. From what I get from you is that there are boards in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, of course, and in Delhi, like Doctor is saying.
Maharashtra mein nahi hua.
Maharashtra mein nahi hua. Okay. So, like, how many boards can there be in one state? And
it doesn't matter, madam.
There is no limit.
No limit because this is not. This is a board which is constituted on a gazette. It's not a state board. Okay. The idea or during the discussions that we had for the amendments, the idea was that every medical college should have a board, and in the districts where there is no medical college, a collector should be able to form a board.
So that is a fantastic suggestion, I think. That is a fantastic, and I would, with your permission, can I ask Dr. Meenu, is there a board in Uttarakhand?
No, there is no board in Uttarakhand. There is no board in Dehradun. So
Yeah,
board is building on ART rules. Board is building up, but no rules for MTP.
So in a situation where we have a more than 24 weeks pregnancy with some congenital anomalies, which is not compatible with life. Now, what do we do then?
We have to go to the permission from the court.
Again, back to the...
But again,
no, not necessary. Yeah, medical colleges are forming their own board, and up to 24 weeks, as Dr. Jaydeep said, now we can perform the abortions.
So you have a board in
24 weeks we can perform the abortion. Above 24 weeks, when there is a congenital malformation, we have to take the permission of the court, and then we can go ahead.
एक मिनट डॉक्टर जयदीप ने बोला हमने कोर्ट से परमिशन नहीं लेनी है, हमने कोर्ट से कहना है
मेडिकल बोर्ड
बनाओ.
There's an unmarried. So Dr. Jaya,
समझा डॉक्टर जयदीप आपकी बात को, है ना?
I think the panel will probably address a lot of this.
Yes.
Medical board has to be made. That is very important.
Yes.
So we will work on that.
So I think Dr. Jaya, yeah, that would be a good idea to have one at AIIMS Rishikesh. At least
not only AIIMS Rishikesh, it should be 5, 6
medical colleges. Yes.
So that Alwani, Kashipur, everybody.
All the medical colleges.
Yes.
I think now the delegates want to listen to Dr. Jaya about her views.
No, before that, can I ask a question, please? Hello, sir.
Who is there?
No, I'm Dr. Sethi from Dehradun.
Ma'am, namaste. Ma'am, puchiye.
I just want Dr. Tank, as usual, was excellent. But I want to ask a question. Suppose you have an unmarried girl coming beyond 24 weeks, then?
So the medical board is allowed to say yes or no for the abortion only if there's a fetal abnormality or an anomaly, which is either incompatible with life or impacts the quality of life. For an unmarried girl beyond 24 weeks with no fetal abnormality, you will still have to go to High Court. And it is unlikely that you will get permission. And this is the feeling that I get. Recently in Bombay High Court, there was a case. I was asked for an opinion. I said, yes, you should get the abortion done, but the court refused. So
That's
the
very
beyond
sad.
24 weeks, the only indication is fetal anomaly or malformation.
In both cases, whether she's a minor or a major.
For what, madam? For unmarried girls?
In both cases, whether she's a minor or a major.
I didn't.
Yes,
Sorry,
also
Archana, I
statement.
didn't-
हाँ अर्चना ठीक है वो
age
दोनों
of
में
yes,
situation
yes.
माइनर में भी अलाउ नहीं कर रहे हैं वो यही तो सर ने बताया कि 12 हफ्ते की प्रेगनेंसी पे भी उसको करना पड़ा
नहीं,
One thing, Dr. Jaideep, I
12
have a
साल की
query.
सॉरी 12 साल की लड़की को भी करना पड़ा
नहीं, for a minor, it is almost, for almost all indications, it's allowed up to 24 weeks. See, this is a funny thing about the law, no? They have said up to 20 weeks, so anyway we were doing, right? So you have to inform. Once your information is done, you provide the abortion up to 20 weeks, right? That's not an issue at all. The next section is between 20 and 24. Right? In that, one of the indications is rape or sexual assault. Because of the POXO Act, okay, anyone who gets pregnant below the age of 18, it is statutory rape. So this also comes between 20 and 24 weeks. You inform and then you provide the abortion. Okay. The problem comes after 24 weeks. Okay. And after 24 weeks, the only indication is fetal abnormality. So Dr. Archana, I think you were saying that if she is single and she is major, for example, then the same provisions apply. There is
I
no
wanted to
distinction
know about
between
minors
someone
and not
who's
major.
married and unmarried. Okay.
In minors, one thing is definite, that if you are thinking of anything related with the sexuality, according to POXO Act, we have to inform.
Yes,
And after
that-
information, we can do whatever allowed in the law.
So previously, the only distinction between married and unmarried was for the indication of failure of contraception. That has now gone away. So for all intents and purposes, the MTP Act as it stands now makes no distinction between married and unmarried individuals as long as they are more than the age of 18.
So I think we should close this session, and Dr. Jaideep, it is wonderfully explained by you, and you have
Sir,
explained the
question.
things.
I have a one question.
Just a
Hello?
minute, please, Dr. Gunjan.
Yes, ma'am.
PCPNDT Act and MTP Act difference. You told us very nicely. You told us about the provisions into the POXO Act and into the MTP Act, and RKSK is a thing in which I was unable to understand what you wanted to say regarding POXO and RKSK.
Yeah.
So I was unable to understand. Can you explain it once again?
No, ma'am, I was just saying that there is one document which criminalizes all adolescent sexuality, which is the POXO
And
Act.
one permits.
And yes, that's right. So and they are both government documents.
Yeah. So amendments are continuing, and we must document everything, which is very, very important. And we must know the penalties associated with it, so that we can safeguard ourselves. And sir, thank you very much. And now the session is closed and handed over for the next session.
Sir, can I one question from Dr. Jaideep?
Hi,
Sir,
Gunjan. Yes.
Yeah. Sir, I have a patient. They got quadruple test done from 2 different labs, in which one came positive and one came negative. So they were a bit confused. And now they are 25 weeks and they all of a sudden have decided to do NIPT, which has come positive. So do they qualify for that? For medical termination for positive
They are
NIPT?
more than 24 weeks. They are more
Yes.
than 24 weeks.
Yes.
They need to go to a medical board.
Okay.
But as I said, there is no medical board. But you can, I mean, if the patients would like to go to court, then this is a good. So I wouldn't say, I don't know what the abnormality is in your NIPT. But I have always thought that when we go to court for the first time as an index case, we should go with a very clear-cut case. A case.
What should I tell them? Like how to counsel? Sir, in a small city like Rudrapur, what should say? Ki bhai, ab tum court jao. Ab court jaake kya karo?
यही बता रहा हूँ मैडम कि I don't know what abnormality there is in this instance. What you have to do is present the facts to them saying that this is the abnormality, these are the consequences. Your options are either continue or go to court. There is no third option. And when they go to court,
amniocentesis also should be advised. And amniocentesis to be very, very sure.
I mean, you have to confirm the diagnosis, etc., etc. All that is a given.
Thinking in terms of
For this patient, if she is
what if the amniocentesis also comes positive?
Ma'am, actually, if the patient is having amniocentesis positive, NIPT positive, then definitely level 2 soft markers and all would be there to, reinforce that the baby is
I'm sorry, I'm just talking about uske baad kya karna, I mean, you have to first arrive at the diagnosis. After that, she has when she goes to court, remember when she goes to court, you don't ask permission for the abortion, you ask the court to direct a medical board to be set up. This is the big difference which has taken place after the amendment, because the court no longer has the authority to give permission. The only people who have authority to give permission are the medical boards. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Jaideep sir. Thank you for clearing all the doubts and wonderful talks, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor, for the wonderful presentation. And so simply,
interactive.
So simply, so many complex problems have been just straightened out in a straight line.
So moving on to our next talk. Thank you so much, Jaideep sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tank.
This talk is taken up by Dr. Meenu Vash. She will be talking about the contraception in challenging situation and the post-abortal contraception. And this session will be chaired by Dr. Luna Pant ma'am, who is Professor and Head at Max, Dehradun, and Dr. Sandhya Sharma ma'am, who is President, Haridwar Obs and Gynae Society. So I would request if Dr. Sandhya is present there, because she had an important meeting. She said she might not be able to join. So I would request Dr. Luna ma'am to please introduce Dr. Meenu Vash in very short, ma'am.
Yeah. So
I have already been introduced.
Yes.
Two sentence only.
Yeah, it's wonderful being in this program. It has been a wonderful talk by Dr. Tank, and now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Meenu Vash. We are all she's very well known with us in Dehradun. She's the president of Uttarakhand Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. She has been past president of the Dehradun Society. She has been awarded by several awards by the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, by the UMA, and of course, she has been trained at Lilavati Hospital, Mumbai. She has been trained at Beam Hospital, Mumbai, and at present, she is running the Meher Hospital in Dehradun. So we welcome you, Dr. Meenu, for your talk.
Thank you, Dr. Luna, for the kind words. After such an interactive and such a lucid talk by Jaideep Tank, and I'm going to speak on contraception in challenging situation and post-abortion contraception. Most of us know about it, but there is always a take-home message from any talk. First of all, the women with the medical condition are often advised to plan their pregnancies carefully, or in rare situations to avoid pregnancies altogether. So certain medical conditions are there which can deteriorate in pregnancy because of there is a physiological changes in maternal blood, and the risk of the pregnancy for most women are greater than the risk of the contraception, and reliable contraception should not be withheld unnecessarily. So while prescribing contraception to a high-risk women, we have to think two things are of great significance. First of all, contraception is given for pre-planned pregnancy with optimum control of the risk factor to get fruitful results. And secondly, the alteration in the...
Do you have any PPT to display?
Yeah, I am displaying.
It's not shown, ma'am.
Oh, let me...
Not coming.
Not coming, okay.
Share
it's showing, yeah, I've shared. Okay, let me go, let me check. Okay, okay. So I have to close it and open it again. Right.
Ma'am, what you need to do now?
Yeah,
Ma'am, close it, open the PPT and share the PPT, ma'am.
मैम शायद आउट हो गई हैं इससे।
मैम फिर से join हो रही
I
हैं।
have minimized the PPT already, and then I go to the screen, and no, it's not coming.
पहले आप पीपीटी को स्क्रीन पर ले लीजिए, उसके
Okay.
बाद में अपना ये वाला जूम वाला ऐप खोल के उसमें शेयर स्क्रीन वाला वो ग्रीन बटन दबाना है।
अच्छा अच्छा, पहले मैं पीपीटी को स्क्रीन पे लाती हूँ।
हाँ, पीपीटी मैम आप खोल लीजिए, शेयर स्क्रीन करके वो पीपीटी जो दिखेगा वहां पे क्लिक कीजिए मैम, आ जाएगा मैम। इसको मैम आप स्टॉप शेयर कर दीजिए।
इसको बंद कर दीजिए मैम।
इसको बंद कर दिया। अब
बंद
नहीं मैम, बंद अभी हुआ नहीं है, आपका स्क्रीन दिख रहा है ये।
I have to come out of it. Okay.
स्टॉप शेयर मैम, ऊपर में एक ऑप्शन आएगा स्टॉप शेयर का, उसको स्टॉप शेयर कर दीजिए।
Right, right, right.
यस मैम, नाउ यू हैव कम आउट। आप मैम पीपीटी अभी खोल लीजिए, देन यू शेयर द स्क्रीन, जहां पीपीटी दिख रहा होगा डबल क्लिक करेंगे, आ जाएगा मैम।
I'm not able to see my PPT. Okay. I minimize it. Usually I do like that.
आपके डेस्कटॉप पे कहीं पड़ी होगी पीपीटी, उसको पहले क्लिक करके खोल लीजिए मैम।
नहीं आ रहा है, मैं देखती हूँ बेटा।
तो can we go with the panel, ma'am? Then
I think yes, then to save time.
एक मिनट और दे दो मैम, फिर नहीं तो फिर पैनल ले लेंगे पहले। कोई और पीपीटी खुली है मैम, पर खुली है, इस पर लिखा हुआ
पीपीटी अभी आ रही है ना?
ये तो मैम पीपीटी बनाने लग गए।
ये ना मैम कोई प्रेजेंटेशन 1 है।
हाँ ये
you'll have to close this ma'am। देख लो अर्चना, अगर पैनल करना है तो I think that should be okay।
Ma'am, if you allow, Dr. Meenu ma'am, shall we go ahead with the panel?
मैम म्यूट पे हैं शायद।
तब तक I think if there are some other questions, 1 or 2 questions we can take।
Okay, मैं रिचा मैम से कुछ पूछना चाहती हूँ। सेफ टाइम डॉक्टर रिचा, एक चीज तो ये पूछनी थी कि बाद में एक am I audible Dr. Richa?
Somebody please।
You are audible. Can we have a discussion now by the time Dr. Meenu is arranging her PPT?
हाँ, मैं एक क्वेश्चन पूछना चाह रही थी आपसे डॉक्टर रिचा। एक एमटीपी के बाद अगर कोई पेशेंट गवर्नमेंट सेटअप से हमारे पास में आता है फॉर लीव एप्लीकेशन, तो हम लोग लीव के लिए लिख के दे सकते हैं कि भाई पेशेंट?
नहीं, you cannot. Don't do that because now the leave application it has become more strict. You don't just give दाएं-बाएं ना leave certificate किसी को। The doctor who has given the treatment, tell them go back to that doctor and get the. You can give the fitness, don't give the leave.
नहीं, मैंने किसी पेशेंट को एमटीपी पिल्स प्रिस्क्राइब।
I understood. किसी और ने दिया एमटीपी पिल and now
मैंने दिया एमटीपी पिल किसी पेशेंट को, तो मैं उस पेशेंट को क्या वो एक रिक्वेस्ट कर रही है कि मुझे 2-3 दिन के लिए एप्लीकेशन दे दीजिए। मैं कह रही हूँ मैं तुमको नहीं दे सकती, पर वो कह रही है मुझे आप सिर्फ ये बता दीजिए कि मैंने आपकी
abortion leaves are there। अगर वो गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय है तो very well you can give the abortion leave 15 दिन की, तो she can take आराम से, and otherwise also you can advise rest, है ना?
मैं ये पूछ रही हूँ कि उस पेशेंट को मैंने लिख के ये देना होगा कि मैंने तुम्हारी एमटीपी करी, तभी वो पेशेंट लीव के लिए एप्लीकेशन डाल सकता है। लेकिन कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी क्लॉ ये कहता है कि पेशेंट की एमटीपी के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन किसी को जानी नहीं चाहिए, तो मैं कैसे लिख के दूं उसको?
See, when you have discharged the patient, ठीक है, your discharge card will have the serial number, MTP number, not her name, ठीक है, उसमें you will be writing rest for so many days or whatever, ठीक है। But suppose you have not written at that time and again patient has come to you and she wants that, you will have to make a paper, separate paper where you will just mention the MTP number. And then you can advise the rest or whatever she wants. MTP and patient's name should not be there in any document together. Bas itna yaad rakhna.
So that means I can advise her advise rest only to that UHID number,
yeah,
and not to the patient.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay. Now PPT has come.
Now PPT has come on the screen. Okay, we have already discussed, and women under medical condition need to be guided properly to have a contraception. They are very important. Their condition, they need to have a pre-planned pregnancy with optimum control of risk factor so that they can get fruitful result and their medical condition doesn't deteriorate. And there should be alteration in the contraceptive efficacy by pathophysiology of the disease or by the drug. So before going for contraception, 5 questions while managing a woman with a medical condition who requires contraception. How safe will be pregnancy for her? And how safe will be that contraception? Will her medication interact with any method of contraception? What methods of contraception are acceptable to her? What is the most effective method of contraception available to her? So WHO has set medical eligibility criteria. Under the medical eligibility criteria, certain factors do come. There are certain medicines. The documents covers the following family planning methods: low dose, combined oral contraceptives, combined patch, combined vaginal ring, combined injectable contraceptives, progesterone only pills, depot-medroxyprogesterone acetate, nordosterone enanthate, levonorgestrel, and the etonogestrel implants, emergency contraceptive pills, copper-bearing intrauterine devices, levonorgestrel IUDs, we all know about it, copper IUD for emergency contraception, and progesterone-releasing vaginal ring, Berrien method, fertility awareness-based methods, lactational amenorrhea methods, coitus interruptus, and the female and male sterilization. We all know about all of them, and we need to know what contraception is good for particular situation. So there is a medical eligibility criteria. There is categories for contraceptive eligibility. Category 1 is condition for which there is no restriction for the use of contraceptive method. Under the category 2, condition where the advantages of using the method generally outweigh the theoretical or proven risk. Category 3, a condition where the theoretical or the proven risk usually outweigh the advantages of using the method. And category 4, a condition which represents an unacceptable health risk if the contraceptive method is used. These 4 categories of medical eligibility criteria are very important, and we will go according to these guidelines in our further slides. So there is a simplification of the community-based services in category 1, where it is very much acceptable when there is a clinical judgment. We can use the method in any circumstances. In category 2, where the advantage outweighs the proven risk factors, we can generally use the method. And in category 3, where the risk and the disadvantage outweighs the advantage, in that condition we should avoid using them. And the 4 condition method not to be used anyways. So it is a reproductive wrong when fertility control by women is changed into fertility control of women. So when to resume fertility, it should be under women desire, it should be under her control. There are certain factors which affect the contraceptive usage. It can be the own decision, husband decision, perceptive regarding the safety of the method, whether it is recommended by doctor, it is through advertisement, in-laws approval, religious belief, and approval by friends. So in own decision is 100% proof. So there is a contraceptive failure. When it is used correctly and consistently, is no method is used, there is a failure of 85%, behavioral method 1 to 9%, spermicide only 6 to 18%, and male condom 2 to 3%, female condom 5%, a vaginal ring 0.2 to 0.3%. So copper T failure rate is only 1%, 0.1%, and levonorgestrel intrauterine device 0.1%, implant 0.05 to 0.9%. So contraceptive has a very good use, and the failure rate is very less. Male sterilization, there is a failure rate of 0.1%, and female sterilization has a failure rate of 0.5%. So we'll discuss contraceptive in every disease one by one. In hypertension, IUD are contraceptive of choice. For malignant hypertension, COC, combined oral contraceptive, are strongly contraindicated. In cardiovascular diseases, for client highly predisposed to cardiovascular risk, thromboembolic disorder, ischemic heart disease, and valvular heart disease, IUDs come under the category of the medical eligibility criteria of category 1, and COC come under the category of 4. We should not use a combined oral contraceptive pill in heart disease. Low dose triphasic pill can be given in mild hypertension without other risk. For varicose vein, both combined oral contraceptive pill and IUD can be safely prescribed. It comes under the medical eligibility criteria 1. Although for superficial thrombophlebitis, oral contraceptive pill can be used. So it is a summary of the contraceptive method we can use. In arterial cardiovascular disease, combined oral contraceptive pill and the combined injectable contraceptive pill is no, totally no. Copper T is the best choice. In hypertension, when it is adequately controlled, implant, copper T, and levonorgestrel intrauterine device is the first choice. We can use DEMPA, and we should avoid using combined oral contraceptive pill and the combined injectable pill. If the blood pressure is between the 140 to 160 and 90 to 99, again, we can use implant, copper T, and LNG intrauterine device very safely. We should avoid using combined oral contraceptive pills. And if the blood pressure is more than, diastolic blood pressure is more than 100, then we should not at all use combined oral contraceptive pill and combined injectable pill. Here, the copper T is the safest method of contraception. If vascular disease is present, in the same way, copper T is the best method of contraception. When there is a history of the hypertension during pregnancy, again, copper T is the best method of contraception. We can go for progesterone only pill, DEMPA, implant, and LNG if copper T is not available. But we should avoid using contraceptive pills and contraceptive injectable contraception. So in case of the deep vein thrombosis, if DVT is present, pulmonary embolism is present, when there is a history of the DVT, we should go for copper T. And if acute deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism is there, we should again go for the copper T, and we should not use any other contraception. When there is a family history of first stage relatives, again, progesterone only pill, DEMPA, implant, copper T, and levonorgestrel implant can be used safely. When there is a major surgery and there is a profound embolization, we should avoid using pills and we should go for copper T insertion. We can go for POP, DMP, but preferably we should go for copper T insertion. And when there is no prolonged embolization, we can opt for POP, DEMPA, implant, and copper IUCD on levonorgestrel. Summary of the cases of the thrombotic risk. When there is a varicose vein, we can use all the contraceptive available in the market. When there is a superficial venous thrombosis, we can go for progesterone only pill, DEMPA, implant, copper T, etc. And when there is a thrombogenic mutation, when there is a deficiency of the factor V laden, protein S, protein C, and antithrombin deficiency, we should avoid using oral contraceptive pill, and we should go for copper T IUD and levonorgestrel intrauterine device. When there is a stroke, when there is a history of the cardiovascular attack, we can go for copper T implantation and avoid using all other methods. In a special situation, when there is a current and history of the ischemic heart disease, we should avoid oral contraceptive pill. We should go for copper intrauterine device. So we see copper intrauterine device is quite safe in most of the diseases. In uncomplicated pulmonary hypertension, we can go for progesterone only pill, DAMPA, implant, copper T, etc. They are medically eligibility criteria. They come under the medically eligibility criteria, and they are completely safe. In complicated pulmonary hypertension, risk of the atrial fibrillation, and history of the subacute endocarditis, again we should avoid using copper intrauterine device, as it can cause infection. There is infection already, it can further deteriorate the heart condition. We can go for the progesterone only pill, we can go for DAMPA, and we can go for implant. In case of the diabetes, contraceptive to be selected for diabetes should not worsen blood sugar control and lipid profile, should not cause or accelerate underlying vasculopathy, neuropathy, nephropathy, and retinopathy. Intrauterine device is the contraceptive of choice, provided proper asepsis taken while insertion to reduce the chance of infection and with optimum control of the blood sugar level. Low dose OCPs come under the category of the two, where there is advantage outweighs the disadvantage for diabetic patients without vasculopathy, and category 4 for diabetes with vasculopathy. So in cases of vasculopathy, diabetes with vasculopathy, we should avoid completely using OCPs, but without vasculopathy, we can go oral contraceptive pill when other options are not available. Progesterone only contraceptives are safe in diabetic women, which comes under the medical eligibility criteria category 2. So in endocrine disorders, when there is a history of the gestational diabetic mellitus, we can use all the contraception. When there is a non-vascular insulin or non-insulin dependent diabetic mellitus, we should go for copper T intrauterine device, and we can also use other contraceptive device. In case of the vascular disease and nephropathy and retinopathy, which is over 20 years of age, we should completely avoid contraceptive device, and we should prefer using copper intrauterine device, or we should go for levonorgestrone intrauterine device. In case of the liver diseases, multiple reversible methods of contraception are currently available but may affect hepatic disease. Estrogen containing contraceptive methods are contraindicated in patients with acute liver diseases. Progestin contraceptives appear to be safe, and multiple delivery systems are available. With rare exception, barrier methods and the intrauterine device may be offered as alternative methods. Collaboration between obstetrician, gynecologists, and hepatologists is essential to provide optimum care to women with acute and chronic liver disease. So again, the summary comes in liver tumors. If it is benign, it is a focal nodular hyperplasia, then copper T is a method of contraception, and we can use other method, but their best is to use copper T. And when there is a hepatocellular adenoma, we should completely avoid using oral contraceptive pill. We should go for copper intrauterine device. In case of the malignant hepatoma, we should go for copper T and levonorgestrel device. In case of the cirrhosis, which is mild, we can take all the contraceptive. If it is severe, again, we can use only copper T device, and oral contraceptive pill is absolutely no. When there is an allergy, antimicrobials affecting liver, like rifampicin, it affects the liver, then we should avoid oral contraceptive pill. best is to use copper T or DIMPA. In case of the viral hepatitis, when it is a focal, acute or flare, we should again use progesterone only contraceptive pill. We can go for DIMPA, we can go for implant, and we can go for copper T intrauterine device. When it is carrier, we can use all the contraceptive pills are safe. When it is a chronic viral hepatitis, again we can use all the contraceptive. But in case of the fulminant or acute hepatitis, we should avoid oral contraceptive pills. In case of anemia, it is a very common problem among women of reproductive age. During menstruation, women need for iron intake is 3 times that of the men. Oral contraceptive are an appropriate and safest contraceptive choice for iron deficiency anemia patients, since oral contraceptive pills are associated with reduced blood loss during menstruation. Most intrauterine devices, and especially unmedicated and copper-wearing devices, should not be used by women with iron deficiency anemia. Progesterone-releasing intrauterine devices tend to increase hemoglobin and serum ferritin levels. Therefore, patients with iron deficiency anemia may benefit from progesterone-releasing intrauterine insertion. So, women with hemorrhagic disorders such as hemophilia, purpuras, and the platelet number and the functional disorder frequently experience menorrhagia. Oral contraceptive pill is the appropriate contraceptive choice. Several studies indicate that the patient with a hemorrhagic disorder frequently experience reduced bleeding problem when they use oral contraceptive pill. Intrauterine devices are contraindicated for women with hemorrhagic diseases because intrauterine devices may increase blood loss, and women with sickle cell hemoglobinopathies need careful counseling. In those cases, we have to avoid progesterone release intrauterine device. So again comes the summary. In anemia, oral contraceptive pill is the preferred choice for contraception. In sickle cell anemia, we should go for progesterone only pill, DIMPA, and implant, and we should avoid. We can use copper T, but we should go for progesterone only pills and implants and DIMPA. Now we'll come to the renal diseases. 3% of the women of childbearing age have chronic kidney disease, and although end-stage renal failure impact on fertility, conception and high-risk pregnancy do occur. Following renal transplantation, the patient should understand the potential impact of a pregnancy on transplant function and vice versa. The survey has shown that a large proportion of the pregnancies in female renal patients, it has been found that most of the pregnancies are unplanned in renal patients. The effectiveness of a particular contraceptive method is dependent upon acceptability to the patient and compliance. So, contraceptive decision making needs to balance acceptability and the safety with the risk of the unplanned pregnancy. Estrogen containing contraceptive methods are considered unacceptable for many renal patients because of their association with increased blood pressure and thrombotic and vascular events. Progesterone only method have advantage and safety profile. The progesterone only pill, intrauterine system, Mirena, and implant are safe and effective in women with chronic kidney disease. So there is a concern regarding the intrauterine system, Mirena, in women taking immunosuppressants, and there's no many studies are not available. So there is observational evidence does not demonstrate the increased risk of infection. And sterilization is effective and should be considered when irreversible change is required. So unplanned pregnancy rates are high with fertility awareness method, and reliance on lactation amenorrhea is not advised. Tuberculosis is very common in our country in the rural areas, but control is strongly recommended for all non-pregnant sexually active women receiving therapy for drug-resistant TB because of the potential consequences for both the mother and the fetus resulting from the drug-resistant TB treatment during pregnancy. As a drug-resistant TB treatment causes the many neurological disorder, hepatic disorder, so it should be we should avoid planning pregnancy, we should suggest our patient not to plan pregnancy during the treatment process. There is no contraindication to the use of the oral contraceptive with non-rifampicin containing regimens. Patients who vomit directly after taking an oral contraceptive can be at risk of decreased absorption of the oral contraceptive pill and therefore of decreased efficacy is there. So these patients should be advised to take their contraceptive apart from times when they may experience vomiting caused by anti-tubercular treatment medication. So patients who vomit at any time directly after or within the first 2 hours after taking the contraceptive tablet should use a barrier method or other backup method of contraception only until a full month of the contraceptive tablet being tolerated. So for patients with mono and the polyresistance TB, but who are susceptible to rifampicin, the use of the rifampicin interacts with the contraceptive drugs, resulting in decreased efficacy of protection against pregnancy. A woman on oral contraception while receiving rifampicin treatment may choose between 2 options following consultation with a physician. Use of an oral contraceptive containing higher dose or the use of another form of the contraception like copper T, etc. So, condoms are a reasonable solution for patients who do not want to take additional pills or when protection against sexually transmitted disease is also needed. Because the tubercular patient have a low immunity, most of the time they suffer from diabetic mellitus and AIDS also. So protection is needed in those particular cases. Patients should be aware that the condoms use is not as effective as contraceptive pills, especially when not used correctly. So, medroxyprogesterone intramuscular injection and other methods of the contraception can also be considered in those patients. Now we come to the post-abortal contraception. Post-abortion family planning is the initiation and the use of the family planning methods at the time of management of an abortion or before fertility returns after abortion. Post-abortion family planning can avoid unintended pregnancy and abortion-associated complications. So abortion accounts for approximately 8% of the maternal mortality in India. And family planning could prevent 90% of the maternal mortality associated with unsafe abortion. So it is the duty of the health workers to provide contraception at the time of abortion and to guide them about the contraception so that health problems can be solved of our country women. Post-abortion contraception. So the proper counseling is needed for women for informed choice before she leaves the health facility. If she chooses a family planning method, it's okay. If she is not able to decide on any family planning method, so we should call her after 2 weeks and we should guide her to go to the health care center where she can get the contraceptive advice. So it is our duty to help her to initiate a family planning method of her choice. She should wait for at least 6 months before trying to conceive again, as it reduces the chances of low birth weight, premature birth, and the maternal anemia. Fertility returns quickly within 10 to 11 days after first trimester abortion or miscarriage, and within 4 weeks after the second trimester abortion or miscarriage. She can choose from available family planning methods that can be started at once. If a woman decides not to use contraceptive at that time, so we should give the information from where she can collect the information about the family planning, or we should contact her after 2 weeks. To avoid infection, she should not have intercourse until bleeding stops. If being treated for infection or vaginal or cervical injury, she should wait until she is fully healed. The method specific counseling should follow if she chooses any family planning method. Now, the return of the fertility after abortion. In first trimester abortion, after vacuum aspiration, women may ovulate within 10 days of the abortion and can become pregnant if she resumes sexual activity without using any contraceptives. And after medical abortion with mifepristone and the misoprostol, on an average, a woman will ovulate within 20 days of the medical abortion with mifepristone and the misoprostol, but can ovulate as early as at 8 days, as studies was done in 2011. And in second trimester abortion, after medical abortion with mifepristone and misoprostol, within 4 weeks after a second trimester abortion, she can return to fertility. So in case of, in a special situation where there is a procedure is done, infection is there, we should avoid using copper T, we should avoid using levonorgestrel intrauterine device. In case of the first trimester where no sepsis is there, we can go for any contraception. If there is immediate post-septal abortion, we should totally avoid copper T and levonorgestrel. We can go for contraceptive device, we can go for POP, and we can go for DIMPA. Now we come to the overview of the post-abortion family planning. In case of the condom, it is the only method that protects against both pregnancy and sexually transmitted disease and HIV, and it is used as a temporary or backup method and can be used without seeing healthcare workers. Some people may have allergy to the latex, so they should use another contraception, and it requires correct use. And fertility, it is fairly effective, and failure rate is 2 pregnancy per 100 women. And combined oral contraceptive pills, it doesn't interfere with the sexual activity, and immediately candidate can immediately return to the fertility on discontinuation. So it must be taken, it has to be taken, limitations are it has to be taken every day, not suitable for women with certain medical illness, and it is not suitable for women who is breastfeeding her baby of less than 6 months. So medication like rifampicin, dilantin, and the busulfan have drug interaction and the lower the effectiveness of the oral contraceptive pill. Changes in the menstrual bleeding like lighter bleeding, dizziness, nausea do occur. We all know about it. So it is highly effective. If it is properly used, the pregnancy rate is 3 in 1,000 when no pill are missed. Again, in case of the progesterone only pills, it doesn't interfere with the sexual activity. Immediate returns to the fertility do occur. It is suitable for women below 6 weeks postpartum and breastfeeding women. It is less effective for women not breastfeeding, must be taken every day, as we all know, and not suitable for women with certain medical illnesses. As we have already discussed in previous slide, there is changes, as we all know, there is dizziness, bleeding, nausea, headache, and the breast tenderness, and it is very effective in breastfeeding women, and failure rate is only 3 in 1,000 women if no pills are missed, and it's less effective in non-breastfeeding women, and the failure rate is 9 in 1,000 women when no pills are missed. So it is, I'm giving in a brief because we all know about all these things. In case of the centicromen, centicromen is a contraceptive pill which was discovered in 1982 in medical college. When I was in the first year medical college, it was discovered in Lucknow by Indian Research Institute, and it can be safely given in lactating mother, and it has to be given twice weekly for initial 3 months and then once in a week, and can be provided by non-medical staff and immediately return to the fertility after discontinuation, and there is no hormonal side effects. There is a limitation of this contraceptive pill is there is a prolongation of the menstrual cycle, and requirement of the regular supply is needed, cannot be provided to women with polycystic ovarian disease, cervical hyperplasia, tuberculosis, renal disease, clinical evidence of the jaundice and liver disease, and the severe allergy states, and very effective. The failure rate is 1.63% in 100 women. And now we come to the DIMPA, dipomethoxyprogesterone acetate. It doesn't interfere with the sexual activity. It is suitable for women after 6 weeks postpartum and breastfeeding. So, but limitation is that the client has to come to the hospital every 3 months, and It may cause irregular bleeding, spotting, and amenorrhea. And return to the fertility is not that quick as in other contraceptive. It takes 4 to 6 months to return to the fertility. So woman has to wait for 7 to 10 months after their last injections. So reversible reduction in the bone density is seen. But when we stop the DIMPA, the bone density becomes normal. It is highly effective. Failure rate is 3 in per 1,000 women if injection is taken properly. In case of the intrauterine contraceptive device, it is very effective. It is a long-term contraception for 5 years in IUCD copper T 375 and 10 years for IUCD copper T 380A. Immediate return to fertility on removal, and it doesn't require daily action. And limitation of this intrauterine contraceptive device is increased menstrual bleeding and pain during the first few months, and cannot be provided to women with current pelvic infection. It is very effective. It is effective in the pregnancy. Failure rate is 6 per 1,000 women. So it is quite effective, but we do encounter cases with pregnancy in copper T. So now we come to the take-home message. WHO medical eligibility criteria is important guideline for contraception in challenging situation. A very less % of the population are using contraception correctly and consistently. So we should have a public awareness program in our community. In malignant hypertension, cardiovascular disease, deep vein thrombosis, diabetic mellitus, and with diabetic mellitus with nephropathy, retinopathy, and liver disease, combined oral contraceptive pill is totally contraindicated. Estrogen-containing contraceptives are unacceptable for patients with acute liver disease because of their association with increased blood pressure, thrombotic accidents, and thrombotic events. Oral contraceptive pills are an appropriate contraceptive for patients with anemia, as oral contraceptive pills are associated with less blood loss during menstruation. Fertility returns quickly within 10 to 11 days after first trimester abortion and within 4 weeks in second trimester abortion. In case of the DIMPA, fertility returns quite late. Intrauterine contraceptive device is a long-term contraception which is very effective in many medical conditions. So thank you for patient hearing. My topic everyone knows, but I have to tell a little bit about the medical condition. So thank you very much for patience hearing. I'm sorry if I could not open my slide immediately. So anyway, it was a great discussion with Dr. Richa.
Thank you, Dr. Meenu, for a very elaborate presentation, for wonderful emphasis on the types of contraceptives that we can use in different conditions, category-wise. That is a very important message to the audience, in which conditions, which contraceptives are contraindicated, and especially all the important diseases, and especially the, not to use oral contraceptive pills in certain thromboembolic phenomena and heart disease and in other conditions. So very elaborate and very nice presentation. I have 1 or 2 comments, and then we can, I think we can answer some questions, Dr. Meenu. I have 1 comment. One is that the importance of barrier contraception. You did emphasize on certain points, but when most of these conditions, barrier contraceptive is the safest method of contraception in all conditions. And if used along with the safe period, it becomes more effective. Otherwise, of course, it is only 70% effective. The other thing is the insertion of IUCD after MTP. Now, nowadays, we are doing a lot of medical MTPs. But in our days, even Dr. Meenu will remember, when we used to do surgical MTPs, we would always insert an IUCD along with the MTP. In fact, in Tata Main Hospital, we had made a rule. It was an undefined rule. It was not a medical rule. But we would always say that we would do MTPs only, surgical MTPs only, if the patient was willing for an IUCD.
Yeah, in medical college, we were...
One good method of contraception. And of course, the importance of now of Mirena, the LNIG is very good. And of course, it's very safe in most of the conditions that you have elaborated. I would like to ask you, what is your view about implants, the use of implants in India, in our setup? Are we using it, and how easily available is it, and how effective is it? And the other question is about the age, because nowadays women are getting married even later and later. So one thing is that oral contraceptive pills, till what age do you recommend we can continue using?
If the candidate is not having any medical disorder in any renal disease, heart disease, anything, we can use oral contraceptive till the age of the 50. And in the last, after the menopause, many patients want to have periods. They want to have their regular periods. We advise the low dose contraception like Yaz and Donis 20. We advise them, and it is recommended. It is the guideline by Foxy guideline. It is a guideline by FIGO that we can use the contraceptive till 50 years of the age. We can use the oral contraceptive.
Provided she doesn't have any history of any thromboembolic disorder or even diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes or hypertension. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Luna, for reminding us of medical college time. We used to put copper T in every MTP patient. And while going through the literature, I have found that the copper T is a quite safe contraceptive. And you have very well mentioned that the barrier contraception, but the failure is quite high. And most of the time they forget to use. It is very unpredictable. Using condom is very unpredictable in renal diseases and the heart diseases. When the patient is caught up with the pregnancy, if it is in the stage 3 and stage 4 heart failure, it would be a total mortality, I will say, to those patients. So we have to guide them properly, and I agree here, but we have to be very particular. We have to counsel them very properly.
Yes. And what about implants? Do you have any experience on the use of implants?
When we were in the medical college, many of our seniors got implant inserted, but most of the time it causes allergy and all the things. It is mentioned in the book, but we are not using implant in our practice. But during those times, people who are getting implants, they are quite useful. But in our practice, I have no
convenience. It's more of a convenience rather than
more of a convenience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meenu.
Richa will throw light on this, whether they are using implants in medical college or not.
Meenu ma'am, can you just stop share the slide? Because
Sure.
Thank you so much, Meenu ma'am, for that elaborate lecture. That was really...
Dr. Meenu, wonderfully you elaborated each and every aspect of contraception. I think you covered everything, high risk and even post-abortion, everything. So now can we go quickly to our panel?
Yeah.
So I made a panel as a reverse panel, thinking that, okay, we can discuss all the doubts rather than having one set pattern, giving questions to panelists and then getting answers. But then I think the most important thing, documentation and offenses were not covered, which I thought will be covered in first session. So before going for a reverse panel quickly, I will just share a few things.
Ma'am, now I would, ma'am, just a minute. I would request.
You have to, you have to introduce also.
So moving on to the most exciting part, a two-way discussion, reverse panel, a panel and a reverse panel. This will be moderated by our chairperson MTP committee, Dr. Richa Sharma herself, and this will be chaired by Dr. Rekha Srivastav, who is Obs and Gynae senior consultant from Dehradun Savitri Nursing Home, and Dr. Aarti Luthra, who is president Dehradun Obs and Gynae Society. And we have two panel experts also, Dr. Geeta Jain, who is professor and HOD from STMC Medical College Haldwani, and Dr. Anupama Patela, president Rudpur Society. We have very esteemed panelists also, and naming them, Dr. Sonu Raut, who is secretary from Haridwar Obs and Gynae Society, Dr. Ritu Tripathi, who is Obs and Gynae consultant from Krishna Hospital Haldwani, Then Dr. Tulika Pathak, she's from Kashipur, past president from Kashipur. Dr. Gunjan Arora, consultant obs and gynae, Harispur Hospital, Rudrapur. Then Dr. Ruchi Gaur, consultant obs and gynae from Dehradun. Dr. Arunima will not be able to join us because of some problems. Then Dr. Sujata Sanjay, she is consultant obs and gynae from Sanjay Maternity Center. They're all dynamic practitioners. So welcome all. And I would request Dr. Aarti to introduce our moderator, just a formal one.
A very good
everyone
evening
knows her.
to all my friends, and I must congratulate Dr. Richa for having been able to get this webinar organized on MTP, which is a very sensitive thing and one of the most common procedure being done by all gynecologists, be they are just MBBS or they are postgraduates. And Dr. Richa Sharma has been very actively involved with all FOGSI activities for past few years. She is Professor OBGYN at UCMS and GTB Hospital, Delhi. And she is FOGSI MTP Committee Chairperson year 2021 to 24. She's been National Corresponding Editor, Journal of Obs and Gynae Jogi 21 to 24 and Joint Secretary, IEG Delhi Chapter 21 to 23. And she's been holding lots of positions. She has remained AOGD Endoscopy Committee Chairperson from year 2019 to 21. And she's been organizing secretary for International Hysteroscopy Conference in 2018, Delhi. So with a great interest in endoscopy, Dr. Richa is chairing FOGSI MTP committee, and that's very creditable because she has varied interests. And I welcome Dr. Richa to start with her panel, which we all have been looking forward to. Welcome, Dr. Richa, to Uttarakhand. And I remember you had promised us that you wanted to come physically to Dehradun.
Yeah. Definitely physically this month. This month I will be coming.
Good. Yeah, let us know, because if you let us know the dates, everyone will be so pleased to have you with us and we can organize a short meeting also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have on 26 IAG. I think Dr. Ruchira will coordinate with you probably.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Aarti, for the kind introduction, and welcome all the panelists and the chairpersons, expert of this session. So quickly, I was just listing the various doubts in the first session, first talk, and then second talk, and then few things I thought I will just, and then I tried to gather all my PPTs from everywhere, and I have just compiled a few things. So before we start the reverse, I thought I will just share few points which will be very useful. So, okay, so can you see my slide?
No, not yet. Yeah. We can see you and we can see all the faculty here.
Okay.
हो गया share screen.
Yeah.
Not yet. Okay, so can you see now?
Yeah, it's visible.
So just few points I just wanted to recapitulate. See, who can do the MTP, we know very well now. I think I need not tell, but just one point I want to highlight. Whether we are having a PG degree or diploma, but we have to have a name in the state medical register. So now if you are registered in your Uttarakhand state and you want to do a MTP for a patient who is in Delhi, and you come to Delhi, you cannot do the MTP till your name is registered in Delhi Medical Council. That is very important. Now next is where MTP can be done. We all know any government setup or a private hospital, clinic, nursing home which has been approved by district level committee. So government hospitals, PSCs, they can do MTP up to 8 weeks. CSCs up to 12 weeks, district hospital up to 20, and then medical college, any period of gestation up to 24 and beyond, provided other criteria is fulfilled. Indications very nicely, Dr. Jaideep sir has elaborated. I just want to reinforce that up to 20 weeks, we have 5 indications, same as before, to save the life of mother, to prevent the grave physical and mental injury to the mother. If there's a risk of GCA in the baby, gross congenital anomalies, then humanitarian, rape, and then contraception failure, it is covering unmarried women as it was covering married women. So 5 indications till 20 weeks, 7 indications till 24 weeks. I think by this time now everybody would have by heart these 7 indications. One is sexual assault survivors, rape or incest, minors. Then if the woman has become widow or divorced, women having physical disabilities or mental abnormalities, then fetal malformations, and which malformation are those only which are incompatible with life, or malformation which can risk the baby that the baby will be born with physical or a mental handicap, only those malformation. Because I was listening to the first talk and then someone had raised the doubt that some NIPT was done and that it had come to be positive, and then what we should do beyond 24 weeks. So 24 weeks, if the patient is having all those anomalies, then certainly patient will get the permission from the court. And it is not like doing the NIPT at 9 or 10 weeks where you cannot pick up the anomalies. If you have got any test abnormal, then you will get the ultrasound abnormality, any GCA in the baby. And if the baby is having incompatible one or a serious handicap, then definitely there will be a candidate for MTP. Then last is the woman with pregnancy in humanitarian setting, disaster or emergency situation declared by government. After 24 weeks, it is only and only for fetal malformation. Now, we were discussing about the regime also. So the government of India has given the regime up to 7 weeks and up to 9 weeks. So these regimes are very clear cut. Up to 7 weeks, mifepristone, followed by misoprost, which is 400 micrograms is the dose up to 7 weeks. And 7 to 9 weeks is mifepristone 200 milligrams, and then after 24 to 48 hours is misoprost, that is 800 micrograms. Effectiveness is very good, around 95 to 99% is the effectiveness for that. But do remember to rule out all the contraindications. Patient should not be anemic. She should not be having HB less than 8 grams. And apart from other conditions, she should not be having the severe renal, liver, respiratory disease or convulsions, glaucoma and chronic adrenal failure. Then whenever you give the regime, you just remember to give one extra dose of meso to the patient. If the patient vomits within half an hour, she has to take the additional dose. If she doesn't bleed after 24 hours of meso, means the medical method has failed. We call it as a failure of method. Then she can take another additional dose of meso, or she can report and you have to do the surgical termination of pregnancy. Now, MMA card, this is the Government of India given MMA card, medical method of abortion card. You can devise your own card according to your health facility, but do remember to write clearly the name of the hospital and the phone number where the patient will contact at the time of emergency. You have to write all the warning signs. I'm not going to the detail, everybody know about it. So you have to explain to the patient, if she has the warning sign, she has to report back. Otherwise, little bit of a spotting and a bleeding, she can have from 8 days up to 13 days also. She need not worry. And around day 15, she has to come back for the checkup. Now, up to 9 weeks, Government of India has permitted medical method of abortion, which means we are using tablet on home basis. Day 1, you are giving Mifi, and then day 2 or day 3, you are giving the misoprost. So 9 to 12 weeks again is a gray area. So it depends. If you are giving the medical method, you have to admit the patient. So after 9 weeks, if you are using medical method, you have to admit the patient. Now, WHO also has given the regime. Less than 12 weeks blank, they have given 800 micrograms of meso after 24 to 48 hours of mifepristone. And after 12 weeks, they have given the mifepristone 200 milligrams followed by meso, that is 400 micrograms. Pharmacokinetics, we all know how we have to give the buccal and the oral tablet. Now, buccal means at least for 30 minutes, patient has to keep the tablet between her cheek and the tongue. And sublingual means she has to keep the tablet for at least 20 to 25 minutes below her tongue before she swallows. So that we have to instruct the patient. Now, another most important thing, always people ask, Now you have given the medical method of abortion, and then patient comes with bleeding, or she comes with an ultrasound report saying it is a retained product of conception. So how do you differentiate if there is a retained product of conception or patient is having AV malformation, which is also common after the evacuation, especially in the surgical termination. So ultrasound, obviously the radiologist will give the report, but if you are doing the ultrasound, then if it is a case of retained product, the product will be inside the endometrial cavity. And there are different grades. The vascularity can be there with the retained product also. It depends upon it is a grade 0, 1, 2, or 3. So, but in the cases of AV malformation, the vascularity will be seen in the myometrium. It will not be seen in the endometrium. Whereas RPOC, you will see the product and the vascularity raised will be there within the endometrial cavity. So why I am highlighting this point is that because the management of both of things are different. If patient is having retained product, obviously you will evacuate. But if she is having AVM and you think it is RPOC and you start evacuating, so AVM will exaggerate and also it can lead to the torrential bleeding. Now, another thing is that once you have done the evacuation, or suppose the evacuation has been done elsewhere, and now patient comes with fever, abdominal pain, and all those features. So first thing in your mind goes that patient may be in sepsis. She may be having infection because of retained product of conception. So in that case, you quickly have to triage your patient. And there is obstetrically modified Q-SOFA score, which is very simple and you can apply very easily. So it depends upon score 0 and 1. So 0 is given if the systolic blood pressure is more than 90, respiratory rate is less than 25, and patient is alert. But the score 1 is given for each point if the systolic blood pressure is less than 90, respiratory rate is more than 25, and patient is not alert. So if the total score is more than 2, or she is having altered mentation, that means you have to expedite very early. You have to start resuscitative measures, broad spectrum antibiotics, and do the ultrasound also. Don't think that it is only because of the retained product of conception, because sometimes cystitis, pyelonephritis, and appendicitis also can occur in the patient who has undergone the termination of pregnancy. So do the ultrasound, confirm the diagnosis. If there is nothing like that, and if the patient is having retained product of conception, then you aspirate it. And then you have to do the surgical termination of pregnancy. You cannot use the tablet because you have to evacuate the uterus as early as possible. And whenever you are evacuating the uterus, send the tissue for aerobic and anaerobic cultures, and don't use the sharp curettage. That is one thing. And suppose the patient is stable, she has the RPOC. Now, RPOC means if the patient has an endometrial thickness of more than 10 millimeters. That means she is having the retained product of conception. So medical treatment can also be given if she is otherwise stable. So this is a regime given by WHO, less than 13 weeks if the uterine height, then you can use a misoprostol 600 oral or 400 micrograms sublingual. But if the uterine height is more than 13 weeks, then 400 micrograms misoprostol is recommended. And then once you give these medical treatment, once you give the meso, you have to wait for at least 1 week or 2 weeks. Don't give the meso tablet in the incomplete abortion and start doing the ultrasound next day, and then you find the POC, and then don't start evacuating the uterus. Wait for at least 1 or 2 weeks. But then you will have to intervene before if the patient is having bleeding or infection. So that is one thing. And then if the patient is in sepsis, straight away you have to go for the higher antibiotics. ICMR 2019 has given the regime for septic abortion. That is Piptaz, you have to start for 1 to 2 weeks. And if they are allergic to penicillin, you start clindamycin and gentamicin. But sometimes patient comes in sepsis and patient has already received these 2 antibiotics. Then you have to give her imipenem or meropenem with vancomycin, with or without amikacin. So that is one regime which has been recommended. So once you do the evacuation of the uterus and the patient had come in the sepsis, the story doesn't end there. You have to monitor the patient and you have to continue the IV antibiotics for at least 48 hours. And if the patient is improving, that is well and good, you switch over to oral antibiotics. But if patient is not improving, then you go ahead with the ultrasound and CT scan and rule out the abscess. And if the abscess is there, or there's a pyoperitoneum or a pus collection, then you have to treat accordingly depending upon your institutional protocol. Whether you go for aspiration, you go for laparotomy or laparoscopy. Another most important thing I want to highlight is the cervical stenosis. Now, the patient who has undergone previous surgery, conization or DNC, forceful DNC, LEEP, in those patients, and after you examine and if you find that cervix is stenosed, now the stenosis can occur at any place. It is not at the level of external os. It can occur at any level of cervical canal and also at the internal os. So in that case, if you start terminating pregnancy, especially in the cases when you are taking her for surgical termination of pregnancy, vacuum aspiration, you can perforate her. So in that case, you will have to have the pharmacological method ready. Obviously, you have to give misoprost, you can give, or dilapan, osmotic dilators can be given. Mifepristone also can be given 24 hours prior to it. And even the carboprost, that is 15-methyl PGF2 alpha, can also be given 15 minutes to 45 minutes before. But all these things we know very well, but that other things also you have to keep ready. For example, if you think that you have given the pharmacological method and now I have the Carman's cannula and I can easily dilate the os and do the MTP, but it will be difficult, because if you see the smallest diameter of Carman's cannula or easy grip is about 4 to 6 millimeters, and the stenosis can be as small as 1 or 2 millimeters. So you may not be able to negotiate these two things also. So in that case, it is always better to keep Foley's catheter with guide wire and also the lacrimal probe. Now there are the dilators and the balloon catheters. So they are very small diameters are also available, 0.5 to 0.6 mm. So you can start dilating with that, and then slowly you can go to the higher one and then to the cannula. That is one thing. And then another thing is that if you have the option of hysteroscopic micro scissors or the electrodes, so that also is a very good option. So why I want to highlight this is that if the patient has a previous history of any surgery and you find if you have anticipated the cervical stenosis, so be ready with all these things before you start attempting the termination of pregnancy by surgical method. Now, most important is the documentation now. Now, either you are doing first trimester abortion, second trimester, or now third trimester, either by surgical or medical, you have to fill 4 types of forms, which is mandatory. Consent form, form C, RMP opinion form. Now, if you are doing MTP for less than 20 weeks, form 1 has to be filled. After the amendment, 2 new forms have been introduced. That is form E, that you have to fill if you are doing MTP between 20 to 24 weeks. And form D is the medical board form. Then form 2, monthly reporting form, that also have to be kept. And then form 3 is the admission register or a case record register. Now, these forms have been changed. There is a slight change in each form. Consent form is same as before. All the entry is self-explanatory. Now, for MTP, the consent of a patient is sufficient as per law if she is more than 18 years and mentally sound. But if she is less than 18 years and she is mentally ill, then guardian will sign. Guardian can be any person, need not be the blood relative. And the husband's consent is not at all required as per law. This is the first half of the form. I have shared all the forms in the group. Please circulate in your societies. So these forms have been given by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So this is the first half of the form 1, wherein we have to fill the details of only one registered medical practitioner, because now opinion of one RMP is sufficient till 20 weeks. Then this is the second half of the form, same form. Now the 5 categories of the woman it is mentioned. You have to choose whichever is most appropriate. 5th category, it is amended, as I've already told, contraception failure. It will cover the unmarried woman also. This is the form E. So 2 RMPs details has to be written. And then the 7 categories of the woman is written, which you have to tick whichever is most appropriate. Now the serial number always has to be assigned. So this serial number comes from the admission register or a case record register. 2 RMPs have to sign here. This is the format of the form D, which will be used by medical board. Now this is the monthly reporting form.
Rita, can I interfere? Can I ask something? Can you show the previous one? Just my serial number.
So yeah, so this is a serial number everywhere you have to write. Okay. In form E also you have to mention serial number, and in form 1 also. Okay, you have to write the serial number. Serial number everywhere you have to write. Okay.
So in this serial number thing, nowhere
I will
the
tell you, let
patients-
me complete. Okay, let me complete.
एक चीज बस एक चीज पूछना चाह रही हूँ, पेशेंट का नाम इसमें कहीं भी नहीं आ रहा ना?
नहीं,
सिर्फ
patient
serial number आ
name
रहा है।
only in the consent form. See, if you see clearly, okay, I will go
It's in form C.
line by line. Okay, I will explain. Only the consent form will have the patient's name. Okay, so the daughter or a wife or whatever. Okay, and but other forms, form 1, okay, this thing should not be written. Serial number has to be written. Then form 1, I have told. Form E also, serial number is written. Okay, and 2 RMPs details has to be written. Then coming to the form 2, now these are the entries. Now you have to write which month you are sending, then the name of the hospital, total number. Now after the amendment, 2 new entries has been added, 20 to 24 weeks and beyond 24 weeks. So if you have that in your setup, you have to add that. And then 2 new things which has been added after the amendment is OC pills, injectables and others. That is 1. And then the indications, 20, 24 weeks and beyond 24 weeks. So you have to write the total number of the women. You have done the MTP in different categories. And then the head of the family planning and the head of the department or the head of the hospital, they have to sign and send to the district authorities. Now this is the register. I was telling you the serial number. Okay, so this is the serial number. This is a form 3 admission register. This, now you have to write your hospital name, then the month. Now this register you have to start every year. Now here, if you suppose give a serial number, particular serial number to any patient. Now this is a serial number. Then after that, all her documents should have the serial number and not the name. Then other entries. Now in the previous form, there were only 14 columns. But now after amendment, 2 new columns have been added. So what are these columns? Patient's details you have to write, and then the indications, then the date of termination, discharge, and all those things. And the 2 new things which has been added is the method of MTP and the post-abortion contraception. Now suppose you have given the medical method to any patient. Okay, then what will be her date of admission and what will be her date of discharge? So date of admission will be the date which on which date you have given the Mesoprost tablet. Okay, and the date of discharge will be the 15th day when she comes for her follow-up. But suppose patient doesn't come for follow-up on day 15, then the day which you have given the Mesoprost tablet, that will be the date of discharge. You put that and close the entries. Now this register is very confidential. Again, you have to lock and keep it. Even the police person cannot ask you to open the register and show the details unless they have the court order.
If this MTP regulation inspection people come, we can show
Yeah,
them.
that I will tell. I will tell that also.
Dr. Richa, how do we assign the serial number? Like just 1, 2,
See, it is very, see, wait a minute. See, each and every hospital you have the serial number. Suppose this is the first patient you are seeing. Suppose you are starting your register in January. Okay, so what we do, we write 1 oblique. We write the January. Okay, that name. Then second patient will have 2 upon that year. Then 3, then 4. Whatever you want to follow. You understood what I'm saying?
Any format we can follow.
This format has to be fixed. Serial number can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever you decide, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, whatever. Okay.
And patient's UHID number is not acceptable here.
Pardon me?
The ID number which
No.
from the
ID number,
reception.
IP number, that is different. The serial number for MTP is different.
Okay.
So these 16 columns are fixed. You have to fill in this format only. Okay. So you have to remember, you have to seal and keep everything in an envelope. Okay. What you have to keep is a consent form, RMP opinion form, whichever you are using, 1 or Form E or Form D, and then keep a copy of Form 2 also, monthly reporting, the entries which you are sending. Keep it in an envelope. And then Form 3, that is a register, it also has to be kept under custody. So this is very important, very medical legal thing, because now the laws have become even more strict. Initially, there were the fine only for 1,000 rupees, but now we know it is 1,000 rupees fine plus 1 year of imprisonment can be there also, which I'll be also telling. Now, next coming to a bit about a POCSO Act, which is associated with MTP. Now, suppose a girl 18 years girl comes, okay, and she is 23 weeks pregnant for MTP. Or suppose a 16-year married girl comes for antenatal checkup. Now, will you report to the police or not? That is one question. So always we get a dilemma. So even if the patient has become major, 18 years, but when she had conceived, she was minor. Okay. So you have to report to the police. How you report the police? Dr. Jaideep Tank has also mentioned. Either you can report in your letterhead or a hospital paper. You just have to write this and take the signature from the police and the stamp and keep it for your future references. That is one thing. And suppose if a married patient comes and she is a minor, then also you have to report to the police. Why? Because the POCSO Act clearly says less than 18 years girl cannot give a consent for sexual intercourse, whether she is married or she is unmarried. So you have to make a MLC and you have to report to the police. But there is a difference in making MLC and FIR. You have to tell the patient. MLC means you are just recording a medical legal case and medical legal document. FIR means you are reporting to the police for the future proceedings and the court case. So both things are different. For example, if I give you, if a minor comes and she is married, happy in their married life. Okay, she comes for the checkup, or if she comes for the MTP, you just make the MLC, okay, and inform the police, take the receipt. You don't insist for the FIR because there is no point disturbing their marital harmony when they are happy in their married life. So that is one thing. But then clearly document in your paper that the informed refusal for FIR, okay, is there, so that you are legally safe in your future practice. Now, another thing, this was an interesting patient who was unmarried and she has come at term, and then she has told that she don't want to keep the baby. Okay, in that situation, what will you do? You should know that there's a safe surrender campaign. So according to Juvenile Justice Act, now they have started this only to abolish or to stop the female feticide. So in such situation, the patient or you can contact your nearest child welfare committee or the specialized adoption agency, SA. And then what happens? They take the baby, but they are given the 60 days. The girl or a mother or a relatives or a parents, they have the 60 days. After that, they cannot claim for the baby. Suppose they have given to the adoption agency and then again they change their mind. So they can take back the baby within 60 days. But after 60 days, they will not have any right on the child. Now, site approval is very important. All government hospitals, they don't have to take the approval for MTP, but private hospitals have to take the approval from the district level committee. So now it depends which approval you want. So for private hospitals, approval is given only up to 24 weeks. Up to 12 weeks, you have to fulfill 4 infrastructures. And if you want the registration up to 24 weeks, you have other things also. So it is there in the website. You can refer that also. I'm not going into the detail. Now Form A, this is for the registration. Now there's a slight change in the form. Now initially there was up to 20 weeks. Now it has been changed to 24 weeks. So all those people who have got the registration done till 20 weeks, so automatically it means 24 weeks. So please contact your CMOs and get your form updated to 24 weeks. Because this you have to display in your center wherever you are doing the family planning work. So that
you have to reapply?
You don't have to reapply for the registration, but you have to give an application to change the form. Okay, because in earlier, if you have got up to 20 weeks, now it automatically means 24 weeks. But then you have to update the form. Why you have to update? Because you have to display this form in your hospital. And if you keep on the same thing 20 weeks, then patient may get misled. So you just have to contact your CMOs and get your Form A updated. Okay, so that is one thing. And POCSO Act, I'm not going to the detail. Only the thing is that if you see any child sexual abuse, either boy or a girl, less than 18 years. Now, abuse means even a beating, stalking, okay, or exhibitionism, okay, or showing pornography. Everything is covered. You have to report to the police. If you don't report, there will be a imprisonment of 6 months. That is one thing. And POCSO Act, there's a lot of punishments and imprisonments are there. But the most important for us as a doctor is that we have to inform to the police. So that is an imprisonment of 6 months. And then other categories of the punishments are also there. That if there's a rape of less than 12 years girl, means there's a death penalty and so on. Okay, so quickly I will just do a rapid fire. So can you tell, is the consent of husband required for MTP?
No.
No. Okay. So what are the minimum investigations you do before MTP? 3 investigations are minimum for a low risk patient. HB you have to do, urine you have to do, and blood group and typing you have to do. Okay. Can you prescribe medical method of abortion on telemedicine?
No.
Yes. Telemedicine, you can do everything. You can take the history, you can advise investigations, everything, but one visit patient has to come because she has to sign the documents. And then if you want the checkup, you can do the checkup. So one visit is mandatory. Rest of the things you can do on telemedicine.
Ultrasound is mandatory or not?
That I'm coming to it next.
Ma'am, this first visit.
Minimum investigations I have told you. Okay, 3 minimum investigations.
Dr. Richa?
Yes.
This first visit has to be the first visit only, no? In telemedicine.
No. Telemedicine, you can take the history, as I told you, you can advise the investigations, counseling part, everything you can do on telemedicine. But when you are giving the tablet, patient has to come. Okay, because she has to sign the forms. That's the most important thing. And clinical examination also, because you have to examine her also. Ultrasound is not mandatory as per the Government of India guidelines. Okay, so but if you have any discrepancy or if you have any doubt, okay, you have to get the ultrasound done. And also I tell if it is early pregnancy, okay, or if the patient is having the previous scarred uterus, it is always better to get the ultrasound so as to rule out the scarred pregnancy, also the ectopic. So ultrasound is not mandatory, but it is desirable. It depends upon your clinical findings. Okay, mandatory forms I have already told you. Okay, do you need to renew the MTP registration for your sites? No. Once you have taken the approval, you don't have to apply for reapproval, but you have to remember CMOs, they can come for inspection time to time, and you have to keep up your standards, because if they don't find the standards are maintained, they can recommend to the government district level committee to cancel or suspend the registration.
Sorry, Dr. Richa, I have to ask one thing.
हमारे उत्तराखंड में सिर्फ 5 years के लिए registration दे रहे हैं अभी तक के लोग MTP के लिए भी.
Okay, let me complete this. Then we can have the open discussion. Okay, you all just collect your doubts. Can husband or police check the case records? I have already told no till they have the court permission. Will you fill the forms in case of missed abortion, ectopic pregnancy, incomplete abortion? No. MTP means termination of live and normally localized pregnancy. So you don't have to fill the forms. Which place MTP after 24 weeks should be done? Government Medical College or which has been approved by the government. Can you give MMA in bronchial asthma? Yes, you can give. There's no contraindication. Patient on ATT, can she take MMA? Yes, she can take, but the efficacy can be slightly less. So you have to be prepared that if tablet failure can be there. Then if the baby is live born after MTP, what should be done? That I have told after the period of viability, if they don't want to keep the baby, obviously they have undergone MTP because they don't want to keep the baby. This question why I put is because now after the amendment, after 24 weeks also we can do the MTP. Now sometimes we find that the patient is having a congenital anomalies, but the baby don't expire soon after birth. They are live. Or if they are more than 500 grams, the pediatrician, they resuscitate it. Okay. So for few days, baby may be live and then baby may expire. So in that case, who will take the responsibility? Because the parents have done the MTP because they don't want to keep the baby because baby is abnormal. So in that case, again, the Child Welfare Committee can be contacted, or the hospital will have to take the decision. Now, if the patient is breastfeeding and you want to give the MMA, you have to wait for at least 4 hours. After breastfeeding, then she can take the tablet.
5 वो अखरोट वाली और 5 एप्पल वाली.
How will you dispose POCs and fetus? Please mute others.
Time बचेगा.
Okay, so how will you dispose POCs? Okay, should I stop now here? I'm getting a lot of disturbances. Okay, we can have the discussion then. Okay, someone want to asking something? Okay, where are my panelists? I thought you have a lot of questions and queries.
Ma'am, suppose a 18-year girl comes with 19-year-old boyfriend, but her parents are not informed. Then how to approach? And
Yeah.
pregnancy is more than 16 weeks.
Okay, so pregnancy 16 weeks, so indication is not the problem. Okay, so she's a minor, she cannot give the consent, you know. Okay, so she has come with her boyfriend. Okay, by boyfriend by default can give the consent. He's a major. Okay, he can give the consent, but I don't advise you to take his consent. But because usually what happens in the practice, once you start the termination, after some time the boy runs away. Okay, then you don't have any attendant with you. So in such case, always counsel the patient, take the girl into confidence and tell her to bring her mother at least. Okay, so that not only for the consent, only because if anything happens, okay, you have to have one attendant with her. So that is one thing. But as far as the rule goes, law goes, boyfriend can give the consent, he is a major. And for consent, you don't have to have the blood relative. Anyone can give the consent.
And how will we confirm that the female who has come to us is 18 years old?
Yeah, that's what. So always check the Aadhaar card or voter's ID or any ID. Okay, and check the age.
Should that be
And
attached?
sometimes what happens, any patient comes, she looks small also, okay, by her appearance. In that case, if you are suspicious, tell her to produce her Aadhaar card. Okay, that is one thing. That is the only solution.
There is no other way, like if she is 17 and a half or something and we want to like confirm, to Aadhaar card is the only way that
Yeah, Aadhaar card or voter's ID, driving license, any standard ID cards are sufficient. Yeah.
Ma'am, that boy will come under POXO also. So we have to inform the police too.
Yes, I have told you. That's why I put up two questions. You have to inform police, okay, and make the MLC also, okay, but don't insist for the FIR because they are in relationship. It is fine, but your duty is to make MLC, inform police, take the receiving and keep it, because what happens after some time or later, they can charge the rape case, okay, that girl side. So police will come back to you. Okay, and once you show your documents, your MLC has been made, you have informed the police, taken the signature, you are safe, legally safe.
Okay.
And Dr. Anupam, go ahead.
Yeah.
The patient can take the medicine at home, or do we have to give her the abortion pills right at the hospital setup?
See, she will come to the hospital. Yeah, she has to come to you. Once you examine, you fill all the forms, then only you will prescribe. Okay. And mifepristone, she can take the tablet and she can take at home also. Okay. And day 2 or day 3, Mesopros, again, she has to come back as per the Government of India guidelines. But private setup, we can give both the tablet together and explain to her.
So it's okay. The rest of the tablets she can take at home.
Yeah. But you just explain all the warning signs and everything what I have told you so that she can come back.
So if we don't ask her to come on the 3rd day as the Government of India has prescribed it in the MMA card, is it okay? Like,
is it fine? Because we are in the government setup, we are also doing this only. Because sometimes patient is from, she has some other commitments or something and she is from far or what like that. So we can also give both the things together. But don't encourage them. Just tell them you have to come on day 1 and day 3. But if they have genuine something, then you can give. There is no inhibition.
And this is one thing which happens here in hilly areas in Haldwani and Nainital, that our patients come from hilly areas and they don't have any facility if there is any emergency. How can we manage these patients?
Yeah. See, that you have to ensure. See, if you are giving medical method, you have to ensure. Okay, warning signs to be explained, patient has to report back in case of emergency. But if she is from far off place, then you admit the patient if you want to give MMA. Otherwise, you do the suction evacuation. That is your decision.
No, ma'am, now that the age has been increased from 7 to 9 weeks, we do expect...
This was the last time also, 2003, it is there. This is not the new amendment, okay?
But we were not giving because it was not like in 2021 amendment that you can give up to 9 weeks.
नहीं 21 amendment का नहीं है ये. This is done from the last amendment. Okay, before only it was started. Up to 7 weeks they have given one regime, and then 9 weeks. It was there from before also.
जो ये over the counter chemist prescribe कर देते हैं MNAs, that is wrong.
That is very wrong. That is very wrong. It has to be punished. But the thing is that law is not strictly enforced.
वो हमारे ऊपर है सारा law.
So they come with incomplete abortion and
drugs. They have to be notified and every patient.
Okay. One thing I want to tell you. Suppose you have your OPD, okay, and your OPD is not registered for MPP. Can you give MMA? Okay, yes, you can give MMA provided you have the linkage to other hospital. Okay, you understood? Suppose you are in the hospital, your clinic, and you have not taken the registration, government approval. Still, you can write the medical method of abortion till 9 weeks to a patient, but you have to have the linkage. Linkage means you have to have other hospital or any other nursing home which is registered. Okay, and they give a written undertaking that doctor so and so, okay, has been their OPD or hospital or clinic has been linked to us, and patient can report during the emergency. And that undertaking you have to display in your OPD or center. So in that case also, that is one thing. And another, suppose you are keeping a Mifi and Mizo tablet with you. Okay, you buy in a bulk and keep in your clinic or hospitals. In that case also, you have to keep a definite record of that registered, because okay, suppose you have taken the 10 set of tablets, okay, Mifi and Mizo, okay, and whichever patient comes, you have to put the entry that is called K register. You have to write the patient's serial number, date, and husband, wife, all the details, and then you write this tablet was given. So you have to maintain. Suppose they come for inspection at your setup, okay. So they will ask you, so you have to show, okay, I had taken the 10 set of tablets and 3 were used in these patients, okay, and these are remaining 7. So that everything you have to keep up to the mark, okay, so that the registration, because the cancellations are in, so much of cancellations are happening now. MTP registration, many hospitals, clinics, they are getting suspended.
You can prescribe it on our prescription slip, and the patient can take it from the medical stores.
Yeah, that you can do. That is fine.
Then we don't have to keep the record.
Yeah, in that case, you don't have to keep the record, but then you have to fill the documents, whatever I have told you. Consent 1, form 1, 2, 3, and 4, what.
And one medical abortion also, all the forms are supposed to.
Yes, medical abortion also. Consent you have to fill, RMP opinion, first form you have to fill, and then monthly reporting, that entry also should be added, and then register you have to maintain. But suppose if you are having your, as I told you, you are not registered, you have your clinic. So in that case, consent form you will fill, okay, and form 1 you will fill because you are a gynecologist. Okay, then register you will not have. The register the hospital to which you are linked will have. So, but you have to ensure, okay, that register, that patient's name has been entered in that register. Okay, and then all these documents have been sealed and kept properly. Because you have done the MTP, so you have to take care of that to be legally safe.
Dr. Richa, the medical colleges also have to undergo a renewal.
Pardon me?
The medical colleges also have to get a registration renewal, you said, no?
See, government medical colleges, they don't have to. Government hospitals, okay, hospitals, medical college, they don't have to get the registration done.
But unfortunately, these new forms have not come to us. That 20 to 24.
I have put all the new forms in the group. Okay, this today's group, so please circulate in your societies. We received.
Like they should have come in the government college. Now they have not come in our colleges, in the government colleges. The new forms.
Okay, those forms were released from the ministry and they were given to different states, and these states have given to all medical colleges and things like that. Maybe kuch communication ho gaya hoga. I have shared all the form in the group. You can circulate that.
Excuse me, ma'am. This is Dr. Sonu. I had to leave for a while. Did you discuss something about medical methods in scarred uterus, previous one and previous?
No, we have not discussed. So scarred uterus regime is same. Okay, there is no clear-cut guidelines. First trimester, there is no, you can give the same dose.
Issue.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So in first trimester, that you don't have to change the regime. Same dose can be given in the scarred uterus, but in that case, you admit the patient, okay? Because this come under the cautious category. Suppose because MMA it is permissible till 9 weeks, and suppose your scarred uterus patient is at 7 weeks and you want to give MMA, so don't give her on the OPD basis. Admit her and do the MMA. Okay. Because you have to supervise. Dose and duration remains same. Second trimester is very important. Again, there is no clear-cut guidelines, but various studies have been done and they have shown that the morbidity in whether you decrease the dose, okay, 400 dose, you make it to 200 dose, or if you increase the duration, okay, either using 3 hours, if you prolong the duration to 6 hours, okay, ultimately the results were found to be same, okay. But to be more confident and to be more safe, in the second trimester MTP with MIFI and MISO, you prolong the dose, prolong the duration to 6 hours or decrease the dose to 200.
Even in previous two.
And use the Foley's. It also works the best. We are using
that we were using a lot initially.
Yeah.
But
it works very well.
So many people started using Misoprostol because initially it was a contraindication Misoprostol not to be used in a scarred uterus, but then I saw lots of studies and cases.
Yeah. So there is no clear-cut guideline also. So you can utilize as per your institution also.
In previous two also you are you're using medical.
Same thing.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Richa. Yeah. Okay, you go ahead, Dr. Madhu.
Dr. Richa, I just wanted to ask that since we have increased this time from 12 to 20 weeks with one RMP policy, then in the PCPNDT Act, how can we ensure that the female has not undergone ST and
you cannot do anything. You cannot do.
On
Okay.
whom
If
will
patient comes, suppose patient comes and she has undergone sex determination and she is coming for MTP at about 18 weeks. Okay, so you don't have to trace anything. You don't have to do, but certainly you can suspect. Suppose if she's a multigravida, okay, and she has come for MTP, and you know she has done the sex determination and everything, but what is the harm? Do the MTP and give her the permanent sterilization.
No, that is fine from our point, but if by any chance under PCPNDT she is found guilty, then
you have to report. If you have a clear-cut evidence, okay, paper and everything, which okay, then you can report. Okay, which I don't think you will get in any case.
Never will get.
So verbal only patient may say, okay, but then you cannot do anything till you have the evidence.
No, but if she's not willing for ligation tubectomy, then also we'll do it. Then
Yes, you do it. Give her the lab, put the copper T at least or anything. It is better. Otherwise, she will go to the unsafe hands. Definitely, she will get the abortion done.
Another thing is, you said na ki you are not supposed to write the name. So like a medical certificate in a medical college, we do issue. So for MTP, the government gives 2 weeks leave. Na? So the medical certificate is made in the name of that person. Na? So we have to disclose that name. Then what?
That Dr. Anupa also I had asked. You have to write the serial number of the thing only. Then second time they will ask, is the serial number same? It's the same as the Mrs. So and so. Okay. Then they will clarify. In that situation, then you say yes, this is the same patient.
No, but the medical certificate, it has a name, na? This is to certify that patient so and Mrs. So and so assay. So you
don't have to see. This is rules are, some fault are there always in the rules. Okay. So this is such a controversial thing. Like we are giving abortion leave or any medical leave or whatever, and it will be accepted only if the patient name is there. Obviously, if you write some serial number or anything, they will not accept it.
That is the thing.
That is the thing. So in that situation, see, in our setup also there's no clear-cut guidelines for this. Okay, there's no clear-cut guidelines for this. So government says you maintain the confidentiality. That's all.
So like supposing
you can write the name, or you just write the serial number. In second communication, they will ask, is the serial number same of that patient? Then you say yes.
Another thing, like
ultimately, it is
the only thing is, supposing like you're keeping an OT list tomorrow, and you say the patient so 5 patients for MTP with ligation, 5 only MTP. So do we write a name or do we write a serial number like that? You have to write
You write a serial number. We have also written serial number. This has gone on this date.
No, Dr. Richa, you are sending the serial number in the OT list. Just I wanted to ask you.
See, that's what I'm telling Dr. Geeta. We also had few cases like this in our government setup. I'm telling you. So we had written in that reply. We had written this serial number had gone MTP on this particular date. Okay. Then next communication they asked Mrs. So and so. This serial number is of Mrs. So and so. Then we said yes. This is like that.
Okay. No, in the OT
ultimately you are disclosing her identity, but then you are not trying to disclose identity. Also, there's no clear-cut guidelines with this.
You are doing
what I'm saying.
2 steps instead of 1.
Mainly, what happens when they come for checking, inspection, and all, usually they check the hospital records. So you only have to be careful. Her IP paper, discharge summary, and all those things should not have her name. Okay. You understood what I'm saying?
The problem is that now with this disclosure form, the imprisonment thing has come up.
Yeah, 1 year.
मैम अब हमें ये सब प्रैक्टिसेस चेंज करनी पड़ेंगी. अभी तक तो हम लिख के देते ही रहते थे कि पेशेंट की एमटीपी हुई है तो हम लिख के आराम से दे देते थे, है ना. कोई कहता था कि हमारा सर्टिफाइड कर दोगे, हमें छुट्टी के लिए एप्लीकेशन डालनी है, हम उसको लिख के दे देते थे तुम्हारी.
And when you give the certificate also now for medical certificate, you have to be very careful. No? Again, they have become very strict about it.
So now the OT list also you just put a serial
number. मतलब एक पेशेंट के लिए आपको मेहनत बहुत करनी पड़ेगी. आपको ट्रैक रखना पड़ेगा, अपनी टीम को बताना पड़ेगा ये वाला है एमटीपी वाला, ये है एमटीपी वाला, बट डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं करना है. समथिंग लाइक दैट.
ऐसा करके तो मैम ऐसा मन कर रहा है एमटीपी छोड़ दो. इतना सुन के तो
क्या वैसे भी एमटीपी बहुत कम हो गया है. ओटीसी इतना मिलता है, you don't get them, so it's practically getting very less.
That is the problem, that unsafe abortions are so common.
Absolutely.
And
Incomplete
we gynecologists, the ones who should be doing it, we are not inclined to do it just because so many lochas are there, POXO Act, this act, that act.
So that's why usually people they write incomplete abortion, missed abortion. I have seen just to get away with the forms and all those formalities, and then so.
Very nice points.
Hello, Luna ma'am.
Hi, Luna. Yeah. We have a wonderful discussion. I had been listening through it. Now, when we do a surgical MTP, we do have a number, indoor number assigned, and we don't put the name in the register or in the. She's admitted in that ABC number. So
that's what I'm telling you. Yeah,
so
we
can create our own numbers for this. Of course, for the OPD cases, we have this the year number and then the number. We have started that recently. Earlier, we were just continuing throughout the years, and then a new MS came in, and he said, no, you have to have a yearly number. So you have to have the year. So you start on 1st January, like you mentioned. For the indoors, we do have an ABC number. And we continue that
so whatever way
or whatever.
मैम इस पेशेंट की जो फाइल बनेगी उसमें इसकी ओपीडी में तो उसका नाम लिखा होगा.
नहीं इंडोर में भी नहीं रहता है. It is ABC.
नहीं ओपीडी जो वो ओपीडी स्लिप कटा के लाता है.
I'll tell you. Dr. Ritu wants to say कि suppose some patient comes first visit में, so you don't know ना कि patient क्या है.
At that time, of course, the number.
Then she will express her desire for MTP.
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, you don't write. Then you have to see that register. You'll be keeping in some room. Okay. You have to send. You don't have to write the patient is for MTP or anything. You do everything, examine her everything, but don't mention MTP or whatever. Then you send to that patient.
No. In your original prescription, when the patient has come the first time.
That's what I'm saying.
You can write over there that patient wants MTP.
That's what I'm saying. Because I'm saying that only.
Yeah.
In the first paper, she has told you MTP, don't write that. You write everything, all the examinations, investigation, everything. And then you tell her to get her all the entries in the admission register or a case record register and get one serial number. And then make another paper and write everything.
Yeah, that is okay. So once she is registered for MTP, like we call it registration for MTP, then of course she becomes confidential. Everything is confidential. Then she just has a number assigned. But before that, when she comes in the first visit, when you're writing your prescription in the first visit, when we don't really know that she wants an MTP, in that prescription, I write, if she desires MTP, because we need to mention there. Supposing she's a primary gravid, and the patient desires an MTP. Now we have to explain the risks of future subfertility, the risk of a perforation, the risk of requirement of surgical evacuation, and all those things we have to explain. Where do we write that? And if there's no documentation, this girl can come back to us and later say that I have not asked for an MTP. You just registered me for MTP. So in the first prescription, you can write that. Once you're doing the MTP, then when you register her for the MTP, then that becomes
advice. Yes,
that
advice में देखो advice में जहाँ पे उसका नाम है, patient's का name है, there you should not put the advice MTP.
No, not advice MTP. Patient wants MTP. Advice MTP कभी नहीं.
वो कभी नहीं.
Patient wants MTP.
These two things should not be together. है ना मैम? Naam and the word MTP or ये वाला.
No. You cannot write the name and no, Richa, I beg to differ. If the name and MTP has to come together on some time, on some occasion, I would like to the view of the house also, and I think we can discuss with Dr. Jaideep also once he's there in some other forum, because when the patient has come on the first visit, if she wants MTP, you need to mention that the patient has.
That you mention, ma'am. What I am saying, you mention patient wants MTP,
yes,
or whatever.
Yes, that is what we write.
When you are advising, in your advice, you don't have to write.
For advice, we will not write. But in the complaints, we will have to write.
And you write everything you write, and you can advise investigations, everything. But and don't write in advice में कि MMA है या मतलब
But when she asks for an MTP, in fact, I always write that patient has been wants MTP and risks of MTP explained.
That everything you can.
I always write. That is very important because I have faced problems in my younger days, and I know. That is important.
Get herself registered, get registration done. ऐसा भी नहीं advise कर सकते patient को?
नहीं, what we do, we send to room number. We have,
it depends on your institution how it is. We just tell them go and get registered for MTP and the front desk.
What we do when they come to the OPD, we have made one room 712. So we advise refer to 712 like that.
Yeah. So we also have a room where.
So in there everything is done, and then they get the serial number. Uske baad फिर
so you can devise your own methods of how to send them. But definitely yes, you will not advise MTP, but we have somewhere on the first prescription we need to.
So you can write
because I have practiced for so many years, so I can tell you all I have had several problems with MTP. You know, people who have got a divorce and her husband has filed a suit that she got an MTP and it was my child and I want the child back. In those conditions, the woman can always get back to you and you advise MTP, I didn't want it. So in your first prescription, you must write that the patient has asked for an MTP.
But never write in advice. Don't write.
No, not in advice. Because we are not advising in any case. Yeah. She is wanting it.
Is there any role of husband anywhere? Can he be one of the party who would say
because this case
that nahi hai MTP karane ki?
No, this case that I'm mentioning many years ago when the husband had filed a case, I had to go to the court. That was the first time that I went to a court. I was young, and that time I was it was very alarming because naturally. So that this case, the husband lost. Because the woman has a right to give her own consent.
Only the woman has the right.
But one thing I will tell you, Dr. Anupma, as per law, husband consent is not needed. But whenever you do the MTP and all that, it is always better to counsel both. It is a shared decision. So they always file RTI.
That's a very valid point.
We always take the husband consent. Although it is not
if he is not there, then it's different. But otherwise, you should try and in your own way. Just
the irony is this, ma'am, that husband's consent is not required. But this can be a legal cause for a divorce. This can be a cause for which husband can file for a divorce.
That depends on divorce thing, which all clause is there. That depends.
Dr. Richa, there is no column for husband signature, but still we can take it, right?
Yes, still we take. As like, suppose when we do the second trimester MTP, we take the signature of the attendant also. So that we are insured, but by law you don't have but we ensure attendance is around whenever we need
there is a requirement of consent of any attendant.
And like whenever you do any procedure, all the rest has to be explained. Okay, it is not just a consent C form has to be signed because we don't write any complications, nothing. It is just a medical legal type of document. but you should have you should devise your own consent form separate. All these risk has been explained.
We do have
all the warning signs and
forms,
risk has been explained, everything. Yes, apne apne hospital you can make it.
I have one question. Well, I was reading for them. If patient,
these the medical abortion pills, can't we write them like because patient has to take? Sorry, Madhu, I've interrupted you.
I didn't get you. What did you ask?
On the OPD slip, can't we write that because the OTs, the chemist will not give the drug unless until it is written on the OPD slip. So
no,
can't
but
we write
name has not. See, that's what we were discussing, Dr. Geeta. Okay, in first OPD slip where her name is there, you cannot write advise me MPP or MMA drug and anything. Na? You just advise her to go to some room or whatever protocol you are doing. Okay, next paper mein uska serial number hoga. In that you write, okay, all whichever drug you want to give.
Isoprost and whatever you have to give.
Yeah.
That's
no,
okay.
you understood what we are saying, no? Yeah. Dr. Mathu, you wanted to ask something.
So just supposing she has come with she's early 6 weeks pregnancy, she wants a medical abortion, she has got a scan and all the forms have been filled. So I have to write the drug. So she has to get another OPD slip made on which this serial number would.
See, with your pen, you don't write her name and advise MPP. Bas itna yaad rakho. You have to have different paper. Even if she has all the investigations done, no matter she has a name written, whatever, but as far as possible, apne haath se you cannot write these things. Okay? So us OPD slip mein you will write her name, okay, investigation, sab kuch hai, advice, room number, so and so. Okay. Once she gets a serial number, then you make a separate paper. Usme likho ki whichever drug or whatever, vacuum aspiration or whatever you want to do.
You are prescribing
You understood my
that
point,
number
Dr.
and not to that lady, the name. So supposing that patient is a Divya, but her serial number is 0507.
So you write 0507 and then you write advise, making ISO or whatever you want. Okay.
Dr. Richa, my question was
government setup mein, it is not a problem. We have a blanket, but it is for the private. It is very, very risky job. So you have to go very strictly by the rules.
I was asking that if a girl of 18 years come and she wants to have MTP and she's also claiming that she has had a marital rape. So what do we do? Do we inform?
18 years, if she has just become 18, you have to see the pregnancy. So when she conceives, she must be below 18 now.
No, I'm saying she's proper 18. She's above 18 because if she's less than 18, then we go with the POXO Act. But if she's above 18 and still she says that this child is because of rape, if the patient is saying, are we supposed to go for police information or not in these cases?
If she is adult, suppose as I told you one case also, 18 years and suppose if she is 6 weeks or 10 weeks pregnant, it means before she was 18 years, she was pregnant, she conceived. Okay, so she will be under POXO Act. Okay, there is no doubt about it. Okay, now 18 years or above, okay, she has conceived and now she says it is a rape or sexual assault. Okay, then yes, you have to take that into consideration. You tell her to file a FIR. Okay, make a medical legal document, file a FIR.
Now we can have MLC case.
Yeah.
Even if she is above.
Yeah, MLC. See, sexual assault can be for minors as well as for majors also.
For minors, so we know we can, because with the major it is there is a gray area कि वो rape कह रही है, हमें मानना है कि नहीं मानना है.
If she is telling it is a sexual assault or rape, she has to file FIR. Sometimes क्या होता है ना, वो कहते हैं नहीं rape है, but they are not willing to file a FIR. Okay, because they just want to threaten the person.
Yeah,
so you have to tell, you have to file FIR and then you proceed according to the sexual assault thing.
So in this case, should we be in the picture? The patient should go and get her FIR made?
Because if the patient comes to you, see what happens if the patient comes to you and she says she wants MTP and she has been raped or whatever. Okay, she's under your care. So you see, every hospital, everywhere you have a police chowki. Okay, so you have to call that police wala. They come. You have to make the MLC. MLC register, either those police wala will have or you have in your counter, whatever you are following. So you have to fill the MLC, you have to, then you have to proceed accordingly. But FIR has to be lodged if she is saying the assault in case of major.
So in this case also, if she is above 18, the hospital is responsible to inform the police. That's it.
We are not bound. We are not bound to inform to the
At
police.
least the patient, if she is saying she is supposed to
See, above 18 girls, whether it is assault, non-assault, if she wants MTP, you can do MTP. Okay,
That-
there is nothing like that.
But if she says, then should we go for the FIR, then DNC, or should we go directly with MTP?
You should go, I think.
You go for the FIR and then you start your termination, but inform.
For a minor, you're
your
supposed to
safety.
inform the police.
Yes.
For a minor, in
Whenever-
any case, you have to inform the police.
Once you inform, you start your termination. You need not wait for the complete proceedings.
Dr. Richa, I have a query. The patient is above 18 years. Suppose she's 20 years and she's saying that I've been raped. So FIR has to be done by the RMP or by the patient itself.
Yeah, I also had this question.
By what, if she has come with the assault, she has reported to you na, that it is assault. So it is your duty to initiate that. Okay. You cannot say कि you जाओ MLC कराओ तब मेरे पास आना. No. It is your duty.
Private में यही
So many queries. We have to do so much of work with MTP.
Not that कि भाई ठीक है, I will do the MTP, तुम जाओ MLC बना लो. It is your duty. Because assault means assault, you have to report.
मैम बेटर ये है कि आप इस समय गवर्नमेंट सेटअप में भेजे, बिकॉज वहां पर रेप विक्टिम्स का जो प्रॉपर वो होता है वो हो.
वही है, वही ठीक है.
नहीं, गवर्नमेंट सेटअप में तो अनुपमा जी होता ही था. प्रॉब्लम ये है ना कि प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि above 18 है, मेजर है, एंड शी इज कमिंग एंड शी इज सेइंग, नाउ यू थिंक कि यार कर देते हैं, देखी ये देख लेगी, पर ये नहीं है. लाइक
रिचा सेज कि पेशेंट आ जाए तो आपकी बनती तो
Crime is crime, na. Crime is crime. As an adult, responsible citizen, you have to.
Yes.
You are at the kursi of a doctor, so you have to do the MLC. That is the problem.
Okay,
one
so
more
anything-
question, Dr. Richa. I know you are exhausted, but one more question about that lock and key thing. Do you really keep those registers in a lock and key? I
In our-
don't want it
yeah.
open in our OT. The register. is
See, this register that we have to keep confidential. Okay, in our government setup also, we are keeping it one place. One person is responsible for that. She locks and keeps it. That has to be followed. And
Ma'am,
all the forms
that-
has to be enveloped and kept. That also we are following. It has to be followed.
Anupama ji, at Brijdal also we used to keep that in locker, and one person had the key.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
Because it was NABH, we had to.
फॉर्म्स सील भी करते हैं एनवेलप में डाल के. मैंने फॉर्म्स
सील करने की जरूरत नहीं है. You put in one envelope and keep it in your cupboard or wherever.
और वो रजिस्टर भी लॉक इन की में ही रहता है.
हाँ. Because anytime a court can order for anything, then you will have to reproduce everything. Na? So you have to keep it very confidentially and safe. And one thing more, register has to be kept for 5 years. After 5 years, you can discard. No one can claim.
You
Not
can
even in
destroy
POCSO,
or you
say,
must
5 years you
destroy.
can discard.
Dr.
10 years
Richa,
not.
even in POCSO,
I was under the impression that it should be there for 10 years.
No, 5 years. 5 years it is confirmed. 5 years, after 5 years, they will not ask you. You can say it is not there. But till 5 years, you are.
Someone files a case for a divorce after 5 years.
Doesn't matter. If you have the records, you show it. Otherwise, you will not be sued that you don't have
but
the
Dr.
records.
Richa,
After 5 years.
under POCSO, they are saying a patient can file a case even after 5, 10, 15, any years.
Exactly, that's what
In
that's
that
what I
case, are we supposed to keep these records forever?
ये तो clearly mentioned है 5 years.
5 years कहीं है everywhere.
Surely है, मैंने कल देखा है 5 years mentioned है उसमें. In fact, मेरा question ये था कि वो उसमें लिखा हुआ है you must destroy it after 5 years. तो मेरा ये question था, मेरा तो रजिस्टर वो हर साल का चल रहा है 2016 से लेके 2022 तक अभी सेम है, तो क्या मुझे हर साल रजिस्टर नया बनाना चाहिए? मेरे तो उसी
Yes, you have to make. Each year you have to make new register. Okay, and that register for 5 years you have to keep.
One thing, Dr. Richa, I have a query. One of my close this thing she made, her daughter had a pregnancy. She was 14 years old. So I referred to her the government college, and then she terminated The problem is that every time the police visits to her home, she is very much worried about that part. She says, we
See,
want
in
to
that
give it
situation, I'll tell you what, whenever you get a minor and you don't, and you will direct to the government hospital, but her first visit is with you. Okay. So you have to inform the police. In your paper, you don't have to examine the patient, you don't have to do anything. She has come 14 years, okay, and for termination and anything, it is a crime. Okay, you inform the police, take the signature, receiving, and keep that paper very safely.
Yeah.
Because always the police will come to the first doctor who has attended.
No. The police is visiting her residence.
Why? No, residence for what?
Because she has undergone MTP in medical college, and she is complaining most of the time. Police comes to inquire. After
The
MTP.
inquire means let her show the paper. She must have not done the medical legal part. You have to make the MLC, inform the police, and keep that paper safely. If you show these two papers and show the law, no police wala
they will not come.
But because once they know that you don't know the things, they will come and threaten you again and again.
Okay.
That is what is happening.
That might, yeah.
And sometimes what happens when you inform the police, they don't turn up. Arey, theek hai, chhod do, doctor sahab, kya karna? In that case, you go to the higher authority. But just ensure you have informed, taken the signature and the seal.
Okay. Thank you. Complete information you got, Dr. Richa. You have explained everything in detail. There is a minor thing. There is a many lawsuits in MTPs. So you have come to save us. And I didn't know that thing that we have to keep a separate paper. Advice has to be given without name. That is a very...
Earlier we were not following so much because hardly 1,000 rupees wala, it was not easy. But now they have made so strict.
And that also at district level, CMOs can do.
Congratulations, Dr. Richa. Very nice interaction. But next time when you go to a FOGSI meeting, we should raise a point that a poor doctor who has to see 60 patients in a day has to do so much work. And if the chemist is dispensing the medicine, which is totally illegal, then they should be fined highly for doing so, because they are not doing anything and they are giving poor drugs. Another thing, a lot of them will land up in incomplete abortions.
And complications also.
Yes, ectopics are having medical abortion.
Right.
So why this sword is one-sided, and all the attacks are towards medical fraternity, and the other people who are not doing anything, the boyfriends would get empty pill and give it to the girls. So all those points are to be considered, and they need a punishment too. It's very, very important.
It is a schedule H drug. Punishment also is there that they don't have to sell, but then somehow it is going on. So we have to be, administration.
Because of these funny laws, it happens. The story which Dr. Tank had told, that an innocent girl, only she will suffer because the doctor will, even I'll do that. A 16-year-old girl, I'll just write, refer to -- medical college, because I have a lot of work to do. So I want to help her from my heart, that I should give her some pill, but I don't want to get into that complication. And it's only the sufferer is suffering the more. The rapist or the other person has disappeared. So it has to be simplified in the interest of the, young girls who are suffering. So something has to be
just
changed.
one step. There are certain institutions in world who have stopped doing abortions. Not that USA.
There are all those Christians.
At least our things have developed from 12 to 20 weeks now, and sometimes even till 24 weeks in certain cases. So that's just a step forward. There are much more improvements. The scope
we are in the better situation.
Yeah, definitely in better situation. In US, there was a protest against the new amendment law in India. So we are far better situation.
Dr. Meenu, I would like to share, we had one patient and she was a 16-year-old girl. She was raped and a medical board was set up and she came for MTP in the medical college and it was done. So it is not that the things are not working. At Haldwani Medical College only we did her MTP after the medical board was set up, and she came under POCSO and her MTP was done at 21 weeks.
No, nowadays I have seen that even all the RMPs are very considerate, very compassionate for the girl. I have no noticed.
It was done. It was done in the medical college. That's what I'm trying to say. A 16-year-old girl, she was a rape, like a rape case was there. A medical board was set up, and her MTP was ordered by the POCSO, by the court, and it was done in the at Haldwani only.
This is at 21 weeks, you said, Dr. Geeta.
21 weeks.
So 21 weeks, you don't need a board also, na? Till 24 weeks, you don't need board.
It was a rape, na? She came under POCSO. She had filed a FIR and everything, na?
So this is a clear-cut case, na? Till 24 weeks, any sexual assault victim, incest, minor, everyone will be covered.
Dr. Richa, they had already set a medical board. The DM had already ordered a medical
board.
Dr.
Geeta, I am just trying to tell you, medical board is for pregnancy after 24 weeks for GCA. Okay, less than 24 weeks, you don't need a medical board.
But actually, the DM had already ordered a medical board, had already been set up, and
that is different thing. That is different, but less than.
If the board was set up for 21 weeks, so then it will be done from 24 also. That's what I'm telling you, the story of Uttarakhand. Like there were a lot of that people were saying medical board is not being set up. So yes, it was set up. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the only thing I was trying to convey. Yes, like we are
temporary board, you mean? Temporary board, you meant?
Yeah. It's obviously it was set up for that particular patient only.
That particular patient.
Okay.
For that particular.
Dr. Richa, this was some time ago. जब तक ये rules वगैरह नहीं आए थे, अभी ये fresh amendment नहीं हुआ, तो उससे पहले की बात बता रही हैं Dr. Geeta probably.
No, मैं अभी last month.
अभी का भी है. She is very right. देखो, right now also.
In July,
I don't think any medical board which has been formed for after 24 weeks, they are not functional till now. And now, Delhi maybe I have told we have formed the board. Okay, almost 12 medical colleges we have formed the board, but it is not notified. It is not functional. So, अगर patient आता है after 24 weeks GCA का MTP के लिए, we are sending to the court, okay, to file a petition and to get the temporary board done.
Dr.
Richa, we are doing the termination.
Is there any deadline for how long it will take to form the board and how long will it take to do the abortion? Like she's already coming at 24 weeks. And then you make a board, take another 2-3 weeks and then...
See, right now there is a problem. At 24 weeks if she comes, we are sending to the court petition and all those things. But once the boards are formed, then they have to give the opinion within 3 days. Okay, once they place the request, they have to give the opinion. And within 5 days, the MTP should be done. So that is for their rule. But till now, till the things are functional, we have to be with the old process only.
And as you said, Dr. Richa, the boards, I think they'll be forming because last year I saw a letter had come to form the medical.
Yeah.
So the boards are being formed, but as you said, rightly said, they have not been notified. After 24 weeks, we have to send to court only if they have to set up and they have to ask them because the boards have not been notified as of now.
Dr. Geeta, आप भी अपने आप पे बोर्ड बना लीजिए, उसका नोटिफिकेशन होता रहेगा. पर हमारे एरिया में तो आप ही के पास ही जाएगा, मेडिकल कॉलेज वही है.
चलो, we take a leave. We are, I think, Dr.
बस एक लास्ट बात करनी थी डॉक्टर रिचा कि हमारे यहाँ उत्तराखंड में अभी तक MTP का रजिस्ट्रेशन 5 years के लिए देते हैं वो लोग.
क्यों ऐसा? Why is it like that?
CMO
से nothing. Once the registration is given, it is a permanent. You don't have to renew it.
I have 5 years you have to ask. I have reasoned it out with the CMO, the person who has the authority to give that. And as a Foxy president, मैंने उनसे बात करके देख ली, पर्सनल लेवल पे बात करके देख ली. एक ग्रुप डिस्कशन हुआ था जिसमें कि बहुत BM और ये वो आए हुए थे. वहां पर भी मैंने ये मुद्दा उठाया, वहां पर भी मैंने बात करके देख ली कि देखो सेंटर में एक जगह लिखा हुआ है, if you have registered once, you are forever. You don't have to re-register. But he said that how do our regulations, my mind says, CMO said that my mind says that some place might start doing it for female feticides. So we need to inspect it frequently. And that is why we are giving it for a limited time. But then I said that you are free to do the inspection thing, but why just give it for 5 years only? He just waved it off that this is my discretion and I will go it this way only. Imagine in our city, there are just amongst gynecologists, only 2 or 3 centers which are recognized for MTP. Imagine that. In a big city, just 2-3 centers because they are not giving. And that too, even I am also only entitled till 12 weeks. And they had not given it for 20 weeks. So, you know, who to reason out with? Maybe someday.
Maybe the higher authorities and then you show the rules also, I think.
That
can
I
show
tried.
them the
I
rules, that these are the
said that
rules.
verbally, you know,
See,
I did not.
inspection is fine if they are coming frequently. Inspection, so they have to come. Okay, but giving the registration for 5 years and then again you have to apply and then again they will give. It
We
is
have
not.
to apply. मैंने अब
yeah.
इसी साल मार्च में अपना रिन्यूअल करवाया है, तो मैंने
that is,
रीजन आउट करने की
something
कोशिश
new, I think.
करी.
That is something new.
Yeah.
I think everyone collectively, Uttarakhand society, everything you should write a
I think
big
I'll take
letter,
the document and then reason out with them.
and then
You know,
show them this is the rule and why you are doing that like that. Now, with proper evidence, I think if everyone goes, it will be.
When we write, they say that the letter has not come from the central, so we will continue like this only. They have got definite.
Is it the same in Dehradun and Haldwani also?
Yeah, same.
That is also 5 years.
5 years.
So the last thing, because PCPNDT forms, they can be destroyed after 3 years. That's for sure. Now MTP forms can be destroyed after 5 years.
5
and
years.
all delivery records and everything should be kept for 18 years till the age of being adult of the newborn. That's very clear that we can destroy.
And then other
all
things,
the
that you
old-
always have to give the notice in the newspaper also that you are reading out so many documents.
That is
and keep that
all
cutting.
registers related to MTP can be destroyed because that will reduce the burden of our collection. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Richa has.
One last question, I think, before closing, ma'am. So, as a doctor, can I refuse MTP?
Definitely.
MTP on what grounds, sir?
To the patient?
Refuse it.
See, you can refuse if you are not registered for MTP. Okay, you
No,
can refuse
we
if you
refuse
don't have the
primaries.
facility.
We
in that-
refuse primaries as a principle because we tell them if you don't get pregnant, we'll feel very bad. We refuse primaries.
Yeah. Yes, you should
Yeah.
counsel them to
We have
continue.
right to refuse.
Any legal
Yeah.
foundation that a qualified doctor has to do MTP if a patient comes to the doctor?
No, there's no legal bound, but it is, you have to individualize it. As Dr. Aarti said, primaries, you tell them to continue. Multis, if they come, do the MTP and give them some contraception. Okay, but you cannot deny MTP because she has not opted any contraception. That also is there. You cannot deny. Just keep her counseling.
That is what I want to know.
Although Dr. Richa, by
See, there are many doctors nowadays who don't find it ethically correct or their conscience does not allow them to do MTPs because they find something that they're killing someone. So
their discretion. It's okay.
That is their thing.
Supreme Court has said that you can deny anything if you don't want to do it.
That is what I wanted to know.
You can deny, but just remember one thing, Dr. Archana, less than 18 years if she comes, you can deny, but make MLC and
friends,
inform
they'll be
police.
happy. Refer them to your friends or refer them to Dr. Geeta, all of them. Yeah.
Okay, we take
So,
a leave
Dr.
now.
Richa, very
Thank you.
great
Thank you.
job done. A wonderful webinar
Very much.
organized Uttarakhand
Excellent,
Society. Thank
Dr.
you,
Richa.
everyone. Thank
Excellent.
you, Anupama. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madhu, thank you, Aarti. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
being
you.
here. So it's already, I think, 7:30. We have crossed the time, and we learned a lot. Thank you, Dr. Richa.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving an opportunity to be partner in such a beautiful event.
Thank you, everyone. Minu, wonderful webinar.
Thank you,
And
Dr.
Dr.
Leena.
Richa, you
Leena.
were wonderful as
Leena.
usual. Very, very informative.
Thank you all esteemed panelists, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again.